DCS tournament. Last
Oh,
Tuesday we ran the fifth grade event, and hopefully this one goes as well as that one did.
sure. Well, we have only about 30 kids playing today. It's the smallest fourth grade tournament we've ever had, or had sitting in 25 years. But we are very thankful to you, Jonathan, for allowing this to take place and allowing us to use your equipment and your knowledge of chess as we broadcast so that teachers and parents and grandparents can still enjoy the event.
Yeah, hopefully, if anyone is watching, they probably won't log in for the next couple of minutes, but if anyone is watching and they want to participate in the chat, I'll be keeping my eye on that. We did have one person leave. We're back down to 29. And we've got a minute left.
Well, we'll see. Jonathan, can you post the link to the La Chess site in the chat so parents that want to go in can do that?
I will, but if people join after I post the link, they won't see it because it only shows the chat after the point that they joined the stream. Well, maybe, so I'll have to go back and repost it every once in a while.
Yeah, if you just post it every 30 minutes or so, maybe that would help because I told I sent that email to the teachers yesterday so they would could forward it to the parents.
I'll put it in the title of the stream. That might help.
If they were in the if they've ever been to a fourth grade tournament, we usually have a huge crowd. We have more observers than we have players, and we'll play about 120 kids. So, but those people that show up to watch really can't watch the game either, because they can just watch their child from across the room moving pieces, maybe. They don't really get to see the game.
Sometimes, depending on the kid, being able to see just the kid is enough.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, if I was standing up and playing from a standing position, then my dad knew that I was going to win because that meant that I had basically given up on focusing and I could just autoplay the rest of the game.
Oh, okay.
We did have the 30th player rejoin, so we have 15 games at the start of the event.
Yeah, I'm glad they got in.
Okay, we have a couple of players that are just moving pawns, and we have a few that are going. Okay, so this actually did stop here, so we're not just going to have a 4-move game here.
Oh, we've got a 4-move checkmate.
Oh, we have a 4-move checkmate attempt.
Okay.
Here we have two players who are developing and controlling the center. Both players should castle. I'll keep an eye on both of these players.
Owning the center of the board, yes.
There's one of them is just sitting. This will happen.
It will. Tournament a few years ago, we learned. Can you tell me the name of the child playing black that's just sitting, and I'll email the teachers.
GAGM 424991.
GAGEM.
Yeah. Okay, so far I've got about 4 people watching, or 4 people that are signed in watching. I don't know how many Twitch viewers that are not signed in. The last one, the one we did on Tuesday, got a total of 260 total views.
Wow.
I don't know how many of that are the same people watching from different devices or who have refreshed. I mean, I'm not sure we had 200 and something actual viewers, but the Twitch video has 264 views on it, which is about the same that we got for the high school championships earlier this year, even though we had many more players in that event.
Well, usually this would be our biggest tournament. Usually our 4th and 5th grade tournament is much larger than our middle and high school tournaments. But it just intersected with field day this year, and I cannot be upset that these students are going to be able to get outside and run around and compete that way today, because they've been clogged up inside wearing masks all year.
Yeah.
So if they get a chance to enjoy the sun and play, then good for them. But I'm also very proud of Oak Grove Central and DeSoto Central Elementary and Over Park Elementary for those students choosing to play on their chess team, represent their school that way. Good for them.
So it's important. Like back here, black plays this check, and if you move your king, you can't castle anymore. So all white has to do is just block with the pawn, and if your opponent plays a check, usually the order that you should go through for when you're in check is, can I capture that piece? If so, usually capturing it is best. If not, can I block the check? If so, usually blocking is best. Moving the king is a last resort. Because once this king is in the center, he is stuck there. And then it gets pretty ugly after that. So just block the check and develop your pieces and castle. Lots of players just move the queen a bunch of times. And white ended up just... Black attacked the queen, white forgot, and now, oh well, this is defended. That's how things go at this level, I guess.
Not looking good either way, really.
We have a game. Okay, well, this player clearly understands some fundamental mate positions. White didn't capture any of black's actual major pieces, so we will see how this game plays out. Yeah, but a lot of kind of random pawn moves. Control the center, develop your pieces, castle. If you're not doing that, you're not playing chess, you're just moving pieces.
Own the center of the field. Think of it as real estate. There's a big field out there, and you want to own those squares, or at least control the squares.
Right.
If you move out there, if you put a knight in the middle of the field, you own one square, but you're controlling a whole bunch of them.
Right. And there's a lot of players. People need to slow down. Like everyone's they're just making moves. They need to slow down. And
when I was coaching, it was called happy making legal moves. Happy making legal moves. They just don't have that killer instinct. And by the way, I have identified our little 5th grader that did not know how to end a game yesterday. The one that we identified at the end of the game, and I will be going to see her Monday or Tuesday morning. We're going to play some end games.
There were at least 10 king and queen versus king stalemates yesterday.
I know.
It wasn't just one. There were
10 of them, but I found one of them that was called to my attention. So I'm going to go find her, and we're going to spend at least 30 minutes or so talking about this. Yeah, I think the killer instinct is a little more intuitive for some than others.
If you're going to play, you want to win, right?
That's right. Although I have met a few people who were very happy making legal moves, And I kind of get a little sarcastic with them, yes.
I am not sure black is going to be able to win this game. Technically, this is winnable.
They should win, but that I can understand. They're going to get them in checkmate. They're going to get them in stalemates. What's going to happen if they don't get back way up and get a plan and then go forward again? That's how they would win. Is if they back way up, give that king lots of moves, lots of freedom, and then develop their strategy and execute. But if they just start trying to hover around that king and see if something works, they're going to stalemate for sure. We should have a few, some callers soon. Jonathan, you may remember a guest that called in during the high school tournament who's now an assistant principal in Paragould, Arkansas. And we edited her interview out, and it's an 8-minute interview, and I actually posted it on my Facebook site a couple of nights ago. And she was such an entertaining speaker that we decided we wanted her to call back, along with one of the gentlemen that she beat on the day she won our high school championship. They grew up as teammates, and now they are, and they ended up as crosstown rivals.
So far, we've had 6 games finish. We've got 9 more to go.
Well, that's playing a little slower than I thought maybe they would play. That's good.
I don't know. Most of these games have more time on their clock than they started with because they're using less than 5 seconds per move, right? So, like, this game, both players have, like, 26 or more minutes.
Oh, my
They've played
goodness.
71 moves and however
Come
many
on, they've
minutes
got
it's been.
that,
Eight.
there's, I just did have all those old teacher colloquialisms, but those 2 queens, they were playing with their food. You do not do that. You go in for the kill. It's impolite to just, have some kind of little immature taunting of your opponent. When you have the material to win, win. End it. And then you can go play a friendly game in the hallway, or in this case with your friends across the room. But
Well, do they know the process? Queen here, queen
Well,
here.
there are some things that you would think, I would hope they'd know the process, but
Check,
there's also
mate.
some things that ought to be somewhat intuitive.
Mate.
Come on, there we go. No.
Cool.
I've always, when I taught that, it was kind of like the scissors move. Think about the scissors. You're cutting off their exit path. You're cutting off their ability to escape you.
This is going to be a draw. There's no way
Oh,
they can
that's
do the
not-
2 bishop mate.
I'm not even sure how that happened. I've never seen that before. But
This was the 2 bishops and a knight, and the knight and bishop got forked, and
they
they
got
saved
the-
the bishop, and
okay.
it's.
Well,
I mean, this is a mate. Like a strong player knows how to do it, but it's not something that I teach kids.
I would not know how to do that. I'm not a strong player, but I've played for over 50 years. And John, was it Jonathan or Craig Siraj, who is actually, I guess, our tournament director today, but he's not with us yet. One of you mentioned teaching children to play at 5, and my father taught all of his grandsons how to play, and his rule was they had to be old enough to not chew on the pieces. And with his youngest grandchild, he made a bargain that he could sit and watch while his older brother was learning how to play, but only if he didn't chew on the pieces. So he was late 2s, early 3s when he was learning, and that's about when a lot of them learned. But we don't necessarily become chess masters either. We're just a group that likes to play chess.
I start
playing with
immediately.
your grandpa.
If they can pick up pieces, it's ready to start. I have a kid now who's not even in kindergarten yet. He starts kindergarten in August, and he's at King 27 on Chess Kid. We do mate in 3 puzzles and stuff all the time.
Yeah.
Just push them.
That's right. 4 is or just let them have fun. I think let them have fun. If they're fascinated by those pieces and how they move, as long as they won't pick them up and chew on them, we can teach them to play. If they've got the patience to sit there, that's the trick. Is they have to have the patience to sit there and the interest to sit there. But for those that do, and in this case, these little boys wanted to spend time with Grandpa. He was their hero. So.
I only played my grandfather in a chess game once, and I beat him, and he never wanted to play me again.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I was like 6 or something.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't
Well,
very happy.
My father took a lot of pride in his grandsons beating him. He enjoyed it. And some of them did beat him. I think they all of them learned to beat him before we lost him. But he enjoyed that. He took a lot of pride in it.
There's mate on the board, queen here, but it's not going to find it. All right, our first guest has joined us.
Hey.
So.
Oh, it's Matt Burke.
Yeah. It looks like he'll be back in just a second.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
I hope
Yeah,
Morgan
so
can call in soon.
we
Hello, Matt.
we are
Hey,
currently
guys.
live on stream. So go ahead
Good
and
to see
introduce
you,
yourself
Matt.
and.
Will you,
Hey, Emily.
hey, good to see you. Will you update us a little bit? When I was reaching out to you, I asked if your man bun was still with you, and it's gone, but
It's
you're
getting
responsible for the cool factor in this. Come
it's
on.
getting there. You know, I've gone through phases with the hair. It's getting long again. I've been trying to grow it out for a while, but it's close. It's just not quite there yet. So
That's okay. You're still cool. You're still our cool dude here. Okay. Well, tell us what you're doing for a living and your interesting life and how you were on a chess team and has that impacted some of your decisions? Tell us about it.
Hey, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, sorry, I just missed that last part.
Just tell us about your interesting life, what you're doing for a living now. You know, you went to
Yeah.
college, you did that thing, and then you went off and lived an adventure for a while. And
Yes.
go back and pick up chess. How did chess impact all that?
Oh, so yeah, so let's see. I graduated at Hernando High School in 2007, then went to Mississippi College. I got my undergrad and graduate degree there. Met my wife there, or my future wife at the time, and then we got married in 2015. And then about 2 months later, we moved out to California. And she was travel nurse, and I was working at a CrossFit gym, and we both kind of had just the idea of seeing what else is out there before like settling down or anything like that. So, you know, before we even got married, that was just something we discussed. She got a travel nursing job, and they kind of sent us out to just outside of LA, and we stayed out there for 4 years. And then we just recently moved back to Hattiesburg, Mississippi, right before COVID hit. So it was like kind of a blessing. It really was a blessing because, you know, you can just think about how everything shut down, you know, this time last year. And luckily we were close to home, and, you know, we were close to my wife, Nicole, we were close to her parents. So we all got to kind of just rally together during that time, even though it was kind of strange moving back across the country and kind of starting over again in that sense. But it was good. So
when you were in California, you were doing some fitness competing and things.
Right.
I don't know exactly what all. I've never done any of that, Matt, as you know. But, so tell us a little bit. It looked really cool on Facebook.
Yeah. Yeah. So my Nicole is leaps and bounds better than I am at it. She's actually
a couple of buff young people.
Yeah.
Really
She's actually competing in, this would be kind of like the third tier of getting to the CrossFit Games. And we're going to Knoxville next week, and she's going to try to qualify for the CrossFit Games next week. So, but yeah, you know, when we moved out to California, that was kind of the starting point for CrossFit. If you've ever seen it, it's just kind of like exercising fast, if we want to just simplify it. And we were both doing really well. And then, you know, I enjoyed coaching just as much as I enjoyed competing. And eventually it was just kind of one of those things. It was a natural kind of progression to stop competing as much and putting a little bit more effort into allowing Nicole to do the best that she could do. And so we've been kind of this like coach, training partner, husband, wife combination for the past like 3 or 4 years. And it's been really good. So we've got an awesome, like really strong bond, really good communication. And, you know, we when we recommend other people, or when they ask about doing it, you know, so you first really just have to make sure you can communicate, and you know that expectations are set in certain ways, so no one's getting their feelings hurt. And I feel like we're getting really far away from chess, but it's yeah, that's.
I mean, all that. I mean, I think chess impacts the rest of your life, and you've lived a pretty fascinating life for a 31-year-old guy. So, okay, tell us about your memories of chess, team. I hope Morgan's calling in soon. She may be having some crisis there in the assistant principal world. So
okay, so it's funny because I was talking to Nicole about this yesterday, and we were kind of discussing. I was telling her about like my junior and senior year of chess and what that experience was like compared to my middle school experience, where Very similar to her, we were introduced, we both went to Hernando. She was a year younger than me. We both get introduced like in the third grade, and my grandmother, Sharon Walker, she was the one who, at least as much as I can remember, really kind of like let us focus in on chess. And we spent a lot of time doing it. And then, always all the time with Mike Stewart, if anyone knows the name.
Mike has done a chess chat with us, and he might be tuning in
Yeah.
during the day today.
Yeah,
he knows about this too.
So he had a great bond with my grandfather, Meredith, and my papa. And so just having this culture kind of around me when I was younger, where it was an okay thing to do. It was not like an unnatural thing to go play chess. There was always a chessboard out at my grandparents' house, and every once a week we're in the library practicing and playing there, and Mike's spending his time with us. And so it just became kind of just part of the life when we were younger. And then I think that going into middle school, it was very competitive, and it was very much like, the only reason I'm doing all this is so I can win the district tournament. And the only reason I'm doing this is so I can beat everybody. And I want to show that I put all this work. And as far as I can remember, when in middle school, I had all this pressure, and it always seemed like last round, the fifth match, you're undefeated. If you win, you get a trophy. If you lose, you don't finish at all. Like you're not even top three. And so it seemed like I was always in that scenario, and I just never could pull it off in middle school. And so it was just kind of the thing that was just like frustrating. And then I think
past it. Yeah.
Right. Well, so here's the thing though, like I pretty much dropped it my freshman and sophomore year of just like, we're going to go play, spend more time on sports. And then chess became a lot more recreational again, And so the junior year came around, and there's just like an opportunity. They're like, hey, if you want to join the team, we're doing like a little tournament at the school. And if you do well there, you'll be on the team, and then we'll go to the district thing. And I was kind of like, yeah, let's just see what I can still do. And it was just this crazy little run where just kept winning. And I don't know if it was more of just I'm obscure in playing, and because a lot of people spend a lot of time, learning openings, learning defenses, learning this. And I was just like, there's no pressure. We're just going to play. We're going to analyze, and we're going to do risk assessment. And it worked for a year. And then senior year, I got really comfortable thinking, well, if I could do this well my junior year without really trying, senior year should be a breeze. And then, just went in with a lack of focus, and sure enough, Morgan completely capitalized on it. And
lack of focus. She would say she just beat you.
Right. No. And that's the thing. Like this goes back to like circling with Nicole. I was talking about it, and she's like, so, I was like, it's just, you can call it I underestimated, you can call it a lack of preparation. It's like all those things. I did not deserve to win the senior year. Like I had no business winning. And, thinking about it today, it's more one of those things like, I don't know what Morgan's preparation was, but I know like I did not deserve to win that year. And she was in the position to win that year. And, it's cool to be a part of that story, but it's just one of those things. Looking back now, just kind of realizing, if I'm talking to my younger self, it's one of those.
We lost you. We just can't hear you for a second. You're talking to your younger self, and then we lost you.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. Okay. You were talking to your younger self.
Okay, I got you back now. Sorry.
Yes. We heard, the last thing I heard was if you were talking to your younger self, and then I didn't hear anything.
Yeah.
What a breathtaking moment to be cut off. So if you were talking to your younger self, what would you say?
Yeah. So it's just just knowing that, I didn't earn it right there. It wasn't deserved. And it's just, that's how it's supposed to be in that sense. So it was a good learning lesson, more so as an adult, of just like, yeah, when I look at that now, that's not what we that's not what I ask of my athletes that I work with, where it's like, oh, just kind of casually work through it and everything. Where it's like, you have to work hard. You have to put in the effort. And if you do, though, then you'll reach the goals that you're looking for. And so it was just kind of a good learning moment, more so retrospectively, because I wasn't even thinking about that as a senior year. It was just kind of like, oh, shucks, I lost. That stinks. Tomorrow we're going back to school, and but looking at it now, it's just a good lesson to always kind of keep on. And like I said, working with my athletes, it's just one of those things that it's just a good learning tool.
Yeah. Well, I think Morgan may have been delayed. She was going to call in too, but I think if she were here, she would probably say that y'all underestimated her.
Absolutely.
That y'all were all grown up together, and her being a year younger, y'all were always a little older, a little smarter. Men are a little more competitive, play fast, play too fast sometimes. And she had a chance, and she wasn't intimidated by the Oak Grove dynasty reputation of the time.
I was trying to think about that too, and I definitely remember a point where it was just like, not giving it the respect that it deserved, being the last match of the year. And I remember just getting to a point, maybe somewhere in the mid game, where it's just like, oh shoot, I made a really dumb mistake there. And then she capitalized on it, and you're like, yep, again, like that's what you get. Like that's what you get for not paying attention. And so yeah, I mean, again, it's just it's lack of focus on my side of it, and she was there to win, and that's what it should be.
She was there to win. She wanted to win. She wanted to take it back to Lewisburg, and I think she didn't mind showing her old buddies, her old teammates, that she was a force to be reckoned with too. But all of us on the side that day were just, it was a nail-biting experience, because I knew you better than I knew Morgan. I knew who she was and liked her. So, who do you pull for? And in a way, being on side, it didn't matter who won. I wanted everybody to do their best.
Yeah, for sure.
And I have always felt about kids is I want them all to do well, and y'all did do well. But it was a nail-biting moment for Mike Stewart. You can imagine how he was his nails over there. And like listening to the podcast you guys did with Morgan, I guess that was last week. We did it a couple of months back, actually.
Okay, well,
tournament out this year because of
so just listening back at that, and I mean, just not, again, like as a kid, you just don't understand the importance sometimes, especially living in just the climate that we are now. Like I didn't know she was the first girl attempting to win, a high school championship. And it's like, I'm not thinking about that at that time, but really that doesn't make it, but it makes it just more impressive. And like, again, like as I adult more, it's just one of those things like, hey, that was a big deal. And if I didn't, again, it's just another one of those things like I should have treated it as a bigger deal at the time. And but things happen the way they are, and you become.
I'm so glad that you didn't, because I think that Morgan didn't want you to give it to her, and as it also was, I mean, at some point in time, we'll get to a point in society where we won't even remember who the first female player was, because right now, chess is a very male-dominated activity. So the girls that achieve at a higher level sort of stand out, and if you have a little daughter someday, Craig Siraj here is from Hernando. He's kind of the new Mike Stewart of Hernando.
Okay, great.
Yeah, he is. He's been coaching, and he's got a daughter like you grew up with Erin Stewart. He's got a daughter that is a force to be reckoned with, and she's won the middle school tournaments already. And she was undefeated in the elementary school tournament, but came in second. You know how that goes, I'm sure. And anyway, I'll remember that day. I don't know where Morgan was going to call in and join us. And I think that she hasn't been able to, but maybe she'll call in later.
I still got time. And then, she was talking about like the female powerhouses back in her day. And I think one, and for anyone who ever knows, like Lacey Scott was I don't know if you can hear me still.
I can hear. Well, I can hear you. Frozen, but I hear you.
Yeah. Okay. So Lacey Scott was kind of our grade level, like, dominant female player. And I remember she would wreck all the boys throughout, all the time. It was just one of those things. She was one of those, it'd be her and this other guy, Alex Darby, still a lifelong friend. And like those two were always like the ones that if you played in practice, you're like, oh, here we go. They just won.
Yeah. I remember the Darby kid doing really well, and I don't remember Lacey, but not as well as I do Morgan. So.
Yeah. So yeah, but Lacey was great, but I don't know if she picked it up as much in high school, but I just remember in middle school again when that was kind of like our bigger friend group that's what we were all doing was playing chess. She was always one of the dominant ones when we were playing, and I'm pretty sure she won a couple tournaments when she was younger.
Well, we've had girls that have won the elementary and middle school tournaments over the years. I had one of the girls call in during the middle school event that had won the middle school event, but we've only had 2 high school girls win.
Yeah, and,
the first one was Morgan, and the other one was Danielle Newcomb.
Yeah. So then the question is it, do these females, do these girls just fall off when they get into high school? Is it more uncool, or just other things come in to play a little bit more where they just the want to play chess isn't there? Or what is it? What do you think is what's turning it off for high school age girls?
I don't know. I think, at high school, there's nobody on the team anymore, unless, especially at the state level. When you go to state, everybody feels like they're pretty good. Or they wouldn't be there.
Right.
And at the high school level, at the county level, we do have some people that may not be that great, and they're the 10th man on the team, but they're doing it so the team will have a 10th man. But guys, I do think just tend to be a little bit more competitive than
maybe.
My sarcastic, I've mentioned it 2 or 3 times. Sometimes players are just happy making legal moves and they get to play chess. And it's kind of that's my sarcastic way of telling them that they need to have that killer instinct.
Correct.
And it's kind of like, the end game where you have 2 queens left. It ought to be somewhat intuitive how to shove that king against the wall and checkmate, cut off their access. But it's not necessarily intuitive to everybody. They don't just figure that out, and they need to have people show it to them. But to a real aggressive player, it's a little bit more intuitive.
Right.
Than to someone. It didn't surprise me when on the 4th grade day we were watching the kids play, and there was a player that had lost several games, even though she had been way up material. We didn't know it was a male or a female. The child had been way up material. And then each time somebody came from behind, and it was because she didn't know how to push him against the wall and checkmate him. And then when I investigated, it's a little girl.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go find that little girl and talk to her. She'll be more aggressive by the end of the day. But I think that's part of it. But at the national level, the international level, you have a few standout females, but a lot of standout males. So.
Yeah. And, we've last year kind of just, I guess more so because of the way COVID affected, the way we moved across the country and just not knowing anyone, you kind of fall back to chess a little bit. And then you have, Queen's Gambit comes out, and we watched a little bit of it, but still just, watching it with my wife, I was like, some of this stuff is kind of accurate as far as like just playing and the thought process going into it. And so it kind of sparked it a little bit. And then you find a couple of people. So I work at a gym here, and they're like, oh yeah, I just started playing. And, you kind of like, oh, I used to play back in my day kind of thing. And they're like, really? And so we just kind of started playing a little bit more, just like 1 move a day kind of thing on an app. And it's just fun to watch them learn, and then kind of shed off a little bit of the preconceived notion that I wouldn't be able to do something like that. Like, oh, Matt's the gym coach. He doesn't do stuff like that. And it's like, oh,
Yeah, you do.
But as far as how it has helped me in my career, though, is just that I think, just kind of watching all these pieces moving around on my screen right now, I think about all the risk assessment. You look at every little piece that could move for the other guy, and then how does that affect you? And then you start planning a game, putting game plan together around that. And it's I do a lot of the programming for the athletes that I work with, and my wife being one of them as well. And so it's just, again, assessing what are all the things that she needs to work on and which ones are the most glaring. Okay, let's attack those first, make sure we can secure those up, and then start kind of building a game plan for her. And the creativity side, I think, has been really pushed through playing chess, because especially at a young age, you get to be creative. You have all these pieces that can do all these things, and there's no game that ever really plays out exactly the same. So you're just learning new ways to solve the puzzle. And so
I'm so glad to hear you mention the word creativity in chess,
Mhm.
because there's a lot of people that don't realize how close thinking skills and creativity skills are. They're like
Yeah.
two sides of the same coin.
Right.
And, but chess does teach creativity, and it
And
forces creativity. So
Right. I mean, to a fault for me, I think if I could just assess myself as a player, it's just like, I don't want to be confined to, well, this is the standard. This is how you're supposed to do it this way. I was like, well, let's see if there's another way, and that I've been told I'm a challenger as far as personality. And so I definitely can see how that played a role as me being younger too. It's just like, let's just try to find a different way to solve this. And bigger than chess, I think that's a good thing for me to really stimulate that quality of continue to challenge, because that's the only way you can find just new ways of doing things.
mhm. Well, you were a pleasure to watch grow up, and all the friends that grew up with you. That was a cool
Yeah.
group to watch. There's been several other cool groups. I've been with this program for 25 or 6 years now.
Mhm.
So, I mean, it's been a long time, and I've watched a lot of kids grow up. And
Yeah.
like I said, you got the cool factor going. I know you have a degree in education and could be a coach. Have you ever thought of joining us back in the education profession?
That's always the fallback plan. Worst case, not worst case scenario.
Worst
It's not a
Yeah.
worst case scenario.
I know.
It's a good scenario.
It's a
at
retirement
the
program. Hey.
Yeah, there is. So it's weird. There are some days where I think I would really enjoy being in the classroom. But what I do is I teach adults, and the way I think about it too is I'm hopefully in that broader view of teaching these adults life skills that they can start to instill into their kids.
Yeah.
And we get to bring that up when I'm coaching classes at the gym, and showing them new things, like them learning that they can still new things, and watching their kids watch them learn new things. Then you see the kids try to learn new things, and so it's just that part's enjoyable, and it'd be hard to give that part up.
Yeah.
But we never knew that we were going to be living in California, and we didn't know we were going to live in California for 4 years, and we never thought that we'd move back to Hattiesburg. So we're through trying to figure out what's the rest look like. We just kind of take it year by year, month by month, day by day, and just kind of figure it out from there. And know, as long as
Sometimes
our
you get lucky. I'm glad you were not stuck in Los Angeles during the pandemic. I had not thought of that, Matt.
right, yeah, it's there. We've got a lot of good friends there that are still just trying to figure it out. Just imagining that their schools are still virtual, and you've got one of our friends has 3 kids, and they're all at different grade levels. One's in high school, one's in middle school, and one's in kindergarten. And so it's like, and she has to work from home, and so it's just like having to manage that. It's really tough on them. So
I am so
luckily,
sympathetic. I mean, there's a reason
Mhm.
why I didn't homeschool my children. It's because I started having them.
yeah,
Before I had them, I thought, oh, wouldn't that be nice? And then I had them.
yeah,
No way. That was not going to work. But so I feel for them. I'm glad that we have had a virtual option in DeSoto County, but most of our parents
yeah,
have chosen to send their kids to school. But that's why we're doing this virtual chess tournament, because if we didn't do it this way, we wouldn't have had one this year. And
Yeah.
you remember how important parents like to watch, and they were very much a part of the tournaments. So
Yeah.
doing it this
So-
way, they can kind of have that experience a little bit. And some
So
memories from the past.
yeah. So are they doing this at their school? Is that how this is
I think
working?
almost all of these are at their school. But when
Okay.
we did the high school, a lot of the kids were virtual. And the Hernando High School teacher, she let them all stay home from school that day, just like any other field trip, and so she could teach her AP classes. It's Emily Trapolino is now married, and Emily Sullivan or something. But she works with the chess team. But they all played from home virtually.
Interesting.
And we've gone one-to-one device. Every student in DeSoto County has their own issued device now, so
I got you.
They can do that. If they get internet access, that's the hard part. If you're in a rural area,
for sure. Yeah. That's interesting. I don't know. I mean, if it's the only way, it's the way you got to go with. But there's definitely
we canceled Knowledge Bowl this year, and it was hard.
Yeah.
We were trying to have it virtually, and maybe we could have pushed a little harder and had it virtually, but we didn't have any elementary school field trips at all.
Oh man, yeah. This is it's interesting to watch. I just know the added level of being able to do it in person is it's just a different skill to be able to do it live, and that's in the same vein as what I used to do and what my wife does. There's a first round of kind of CrossFit is everything is done virtually, and so you just film yourself in your own gym doing these workouts, and then you submit that, and then you get kind of ranked with everyone else. And there are people who are really good at that because they are in their own comfortable kind of home. They can do it at their time, but then eventually, like what we're about to do is move to a live competition, and it's a different skill to be able to compete against your peers face to face.
It is.
And
there's a different dynamic of the intimidation or the friendliness of it.
Yeah.
But also, like Janet Osborne called in 2 days ago when we were having the 5th grade tournament. And she said, I think it was Denise Bolheis that said that when she called in that the kids learn as much in the hallway playing the pickup games with friends from another than they learn on the field sometimes, because they'll look over across the room and say, hey, I used to go to church with that person and they play chess too. And then they'll hook up somewhere in the hallway and play a friendly game and renew a cross-county friendship that and we've had a few boyfriend girlfriends come out of the chess tournament before. So
there you go.
But it's nice to find people that live in not just in your school, but in your greater area who you have something in common with. So.
Yeah. I mean, this is 4th grade. I think they'll have more opportunity in the future to play in person. So.
Well, hopefully we'll be back at a live tournament the week before Thanksgiving next year. And when we set up those boards, we want to play every grade before we take those boards down. So that's all, we do it all at the same time, sort of. But because of COVID and because of the help of some wonderful people like Jonathan Beatty and Craig Siraj and also Alex King, we can those gentlemen are the ones that set up all this, Matt. If you just had figured that out, I wasn't doing all this virtual stuff, set up and everything. I could talk, So that's what I do. That's my part on this, is to figure out how to talk. So, well, Matt, thank you for calling in. And
absolutely.
If Morgan calls in later, I will tell her all the wonderful memories that you have. So anytime.
Let me know if there's anything I can do to help. And I really hope
if you ever move back this way, we'll have we need a TD. People, I've got some things you can do, but it's a little hard to commute from Hattiesburg. So okay.
It's right now. But no, I really appreciate that. And I hope you guys have a great tournament. And again, if you ever need anything, let me know. And I hope you guys have a great day. Okay.
Crazy about you, Matt. Thank you for calling in.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye. So, Jonathan?
Yeah, we've got a short break between rounds.
Okay. Well, are we at the end of round 2 then?
Yes. After the first round, I posted some comments in the chat that most of the kids should be able to see about taking their time, developing their pieces. You don't win by playing check over and over. You win by finding checkmate, so stop and look for one.
Right.
But I'm not sure whether that advice really sunk in for the majority of the kids.
Have you, I just want to call attention to the fact that you have posted a place that parents can click into and go into La Chess and find their own child's game.
Yes. I posted again in the Twitch chat just now.
I know that I don't want anybody looking for their child and not be able to find them. So.
Yeah, and if there is anyone out there that can hear the clicking sound, that's me typing. Sorry, my keyboard is really loud, so there's not much that I can do about that. I love this keyboard. It's older than I am, and I'm not getting rid of it. So.
Well, it was sure good to see Matt. He's a grown man now, and to hear from him. But I watched him grow up playing chess, and he's always been just a fine fellow.
Yeah, a lot of the kids that I worked with early on are now in college or graduating college. I had a couple that are in like computer science departments, and they were asking me for help with some project, and it's been interesting because I remember when these kids were like 8
Yeah.
and they could barely tie their shoes, and now
See,
they're
I can remember when you were 8 and you were the dreaded person from the little South Haven Elementary School team that I would take up to White Station to play. They were, they remembered you. You may not remember them, but they remember you.
I just wanted to play chess. I mean, it was
Yeah, well, that's good. I'm glad you did, and you didn't show no mercy, and that's a good thing. I'm not saying otherwise, but you were definitely a dominant force among the 8-year-olds at that time. So, hey, Craig, I guess
Boom.
did you get to listen to Matt some?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, he was on one of the first teams that Mike coached in Hernando before his wife went to work at DeSoto Central, and he kind of moved over to DeSoto Central in Pleasant Hill to coach.
Yeah.
But like he said, he kind of raised a group of chess players, and Mike and Morgan were 2 of those.
Out of curiosity, what schools actually have chess clubs?
That's an interesting question. It depends on how you judge a chess club. I hope all of our spotlight
Extracurricular.
programs learn chess.
Right.
And
Not what I'm talking about. I mean, like an
yeah.
extracurricular club, like you would have.
At the high school level, all of them to some point. A couple of them are more active than others. DeSoto Central and Center Hill are pretty active. Hernando gets active when they decide to get active. They get active real quickly, and then they kind of are inactive again for a long time. But then some of our schools do have extracurricular at the elementary level, but it's not that common. More what is common is the club may get together, because for our district tournament, you do not have to be in spotlight in that class to be part of it. So at the beginning of the year, a club will sort of form, and they'll practice until it's time for the county tournament. And then they usually take a break over Christmas, and then sometime in January, they'll start practicing again to get ready for the state tournament if they have kids that are more committed and involved. And we have a few schools, and that varies from year to year, which does that. The model that's ideal is what Mike used to do in Hernando and what Jeff Bolheist does over in Olive Branch. And we've had a few people do that at some other attendance zones around the district, is if some very talented, interested dad, like let's say Craig Siraj, he says, okay, I'll do this. And we give you all the chess boards you need. And say, I'll be at the library every Tuesday evening at 5 o'clock. And then anybody from the Hernando attendance zone or close enough knows to show up over there. And the kids in the 4th grade can play the high school kids, and maybe the adult in charge brings one lesson about maybe a certain opening or a certain middle game move, and maybe gives out some puzzles for them to work during the week, or today you'd probably create a phone group for them, to do the puzzles on a phone. But and then so they're they kind of allow the kids that are most interested from every grade level to be the Hernando Chess Club. And then when it's time for the county tournament, or time for state, then the kids kind of go back to their own school clubs to compete. But they all year long, they have a neighborhood club that meets at the library or meets at the church or something like that the most interested one, and that works really well. that has worked really well over the years.
Right, so that's outside of the school then.
That's outside of the school, and sometimes teachers come and support that outside of the school. And you can register the chess club with the U.S. Chess Federation and play as a club in their tournaments from time to time. But we have a memorial fund that's held by the Community Foundation of Northwest Mississippi. It was recently infused with an extra $5,000 through the owners of C Spires. Donated $5,000 to us to make sure the club was infused, and so that memorial fund can donate, and it's actually my father's memorial fund because he taught me how to play chess and all those grandchildren how to play chess. But through that, we can buy chess boards for the clubs and help you get started. And we just need someone who can, we like for anybody that we support to pass the background test first, but that's usually not a problem. And then we'll give them any materials they need. Just agree to let the kids show up and play.
Yeah.
So it's
cool.
It's it's like what Mike Stewart used to do in Hernando. I've had Brenda Ballard and Sharon Walker were the spotlight teachers at Oak Grove at that time. And they got things together and helped organize things. And occasionally they'd show up at the chess practice. And Bill Ballard would show up at the chess practice and they'd play too. But they were more in charge of their school teams and their school networking. And, normally a coach has to get the bus together and all that stuff to ride to the county tournament. And, the teacher's taking care of other things. It's nice if she can let the Hernando attendance zone chess coach be the person that meets with the kids and the most interested kids once a week.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool.
It is. And Jeff Bolheis has done it for years and years and years. Have you been over to one of Jeff's?
I've never been to one of his clubs.
He'll have a huge gathering over there. Usually in the early fall, he'll have 50 kids show up. It's a little overwhelming. It's a little overwhelming sometimes. But he's very generous to let pretty much any kid that shows up. He doesn't say, show your identification. Are you an Olive Branch kid? So lots of kids show up over there over the years. And we've had the youth minister at a Methodist church in the Lake Comrade attendance zone was the coach for several years over there. And he sometimes they'd meet at the church, but sometimes they just met at the high school after school. So, a big group.
I remember when I was growing up, there was a group of chess players that were meeting at the Hernando Library.
Mm-hmm.
I came and actually, I don't know if I gave a lesson. I was in high school. I did visit. They asked me to come visit, and I came and I played some kids. I can't remember if I gave a sign or if I gave a lesson. It was so long ago. I mean,
I bet you that you came to Mike Stewart's class and you probably played Matt Burke, because
maybe
that's what he was just talking about. And you played little Morgan, who's the cute little redhead that won the tournament, and the Darby kid, and that first group. About 25 years ago, they were all in maybe upper elementary, and you'd have been in high school then. Like I said, and that's the group that grew up, and we kind of created the high school tournament for that age group. That they're about 32 right now. They were our first high school group that went through, because for several years we just had the 4th and 5th grade, and then we had to add the middle school, and that took us a while to get that settled in, and then we had enough interested kids to where we grew it into high school. And the first couple of years, we only let the high school send 4 kids because we didn't know how much interest we'd have at the high school level. And now it just depends. DeSoto Central will have 30 kids try out for a 10-man team.
Wow.
So it obviously means a lot to those kids, whether they are champion great players or not. It's kind of irrelevant. It's their peer group and they want to be with them.
Yeah,
so,
that's cool.
It is cool. And I'm glad Madison will have that opportunity at Hernando.
If I can get her to stick with chess, we'll see.
Well, she may not. If you talk with Mike Stewart, Erin is probably not watching today. She's a teacher over at Lewisburg High School now, and she could coach the chess team at Lewisburg High School. She grew up playing, good, solid player.
Yeah.
Never won a tournament, but she always won 3 or 4 games. And but she just had enough. She wanted to be in cheer, and so she and her dad bonded when she was little, and then when she got into high school, she and her mom bonded. She was competitive cheer and competitive some other stuff like that. So.
Yeah, I've quickly learned the more I push it, the less likely my daughter will be to do it. So,
Yeah.
well, trying to
you
get to that.
also with just putting the gifted hat on as being a gifted teacher of that personality, kids tend to be very interested and focused in one thing.
Yeah.
And then they get to a certain level, and then it's not that they aren't interested anymore. They like it. It's just sort of like they've absorbed it and they're ready to move on to the next thing. And you have to feed the fire, feed that fire while it's hungry. So if she's fascinated with just today, submerge her in it. But then if she says, okay, Dad, and she's ready to be submerged in something else, submerge her in that. But then she'll come back to chess. Like,
I hope so.
I don't know if you probably hadn't. Well, you were probably listening in some during that high school tournament. But Morgan is on my Facebook page if you want to watch it, and she talks about her husband now, and their dinner party game is "Can you beat my wife at chess?" And he challenges all his friends to come over.
I want to go have dinner with him and see.
By the way, see if you can beat my wife at chess. And so far, none of his friends have been able to beat his wife. And she's an assistant principal, but she works with she'll sometimes come in and challenge the 5th grade, and they're so shocked that she beats them.
Yeah, that's funny.
And so it is, she's hilarious. And it's really carried on with her. She's an assistant principal now, and a grown woman, and happily married, but chess is still a part of her life. And it made her not the least little bit scared of those boys she grew up with when it was her turn to win.
Yeah.
We were glad of that.
There are significant social benefits for a high schooler who is decent at chess. Even if they don't play much once they get in, because a lot of people get to high school and they have other things they want to do. And so it's very common for them to stop. But like when I was in high school, I wasn't as active as I was earlier. I still played in tournaments with my team, but I didn't really practice as much. But I would go to some party and someone would say, oh yeah, I play chess, and I'd play them blindfold and just crush them, because being able to play and being decent are 2 completely different things. So there's a lot of people that are like, oh yeah, I remember you. We went to something when we were in high school, and I was talking about how I can beat all my friends at chess, and I beat them, turned around, not even facing the board. It's like,
that's okay, Jonathan. We need people like you in the world. We do.
No, it's one of those things.
It's
not as hard as you think. Everyone who doesn't play chess, it's like, oh, I can't imagine playing a whole game with a blindfold on. But like, it's really not that hard.
So I'm not a great player. Jonathan usually beats me. But when I go to St. Louis and I take my daughter with me, my daughter's in the back seat on her iPad with the chessboard out, and I'm driving. I can't see anything except the road, and we play chess. I play it in my head. I play the whole game, and she's in the back, but she can't do that yet. So she's on her iPad, seeing the pieces, but I have to remember where all the pieces are.
That's
really
the hard
not
part.
as hard.
I don't remember where the pieces are. I can kind of visualize the board, and chess notation sort of strong enough to where I can think it through, but I can't remember where all the pieces are. So.
Well, the trick is that you're not remembering where all the pieces are, right? You're not sitting there thinking there are 64 squares, what's on A1, what's on A2, what's on A3. You're not doing that, right? What you're doing is chess positions evolve in predictable ways. There are openings that tend to become other things. If you take, there was a study like 20 years ago, if you take a chessboard and you put the pieces on the board completely randomly, just not a real chess game, just totally random placement, a master level chess player and a random person off the street are equally good at remembering that position. The master player has no advantage at remembering where the pieces are. But if you take a real chess position from a real game and you show it to a master for 2 seconds, they can set up the exact position hours later. Because it's a real game. Because you're not remembering 64 squares and 30 pieces. You're remembering this is a Sicilian Sveshnikov defense, and that automatically 90% of the position is done. And then this piece is here, this piece is here. The pawn structure has changed slightly. That's
Dark
the whole
square
position.
Control, light square control.
Yeah, exactly. right? It evolves in a predictable manner. It's a pattern analysis thing. It comes in chunks. There aren't 100 things to remember. You can't fit 100 things in your brain, right? Human working memory is like 10 objects at once. That's it. No matter how smart you are, working memory is very restricted. And so it's just a matter of the more you know, the more efficiently you can use 10 objects. 10 objects could be 10 pieces if you're a beginner, but it could be a whole board. Wow, we actually have a checkmate on the board.
Oh, wow. Look at that.
Yeah, the pawn takes away the last square. But yeah, it's remembering a position, if it's a real position, is really not as hard as you think. It's just a matter of experience. But yeah, if you were to put the pieces on the board randomly, it's impossible, right? You cannot remember that many different items at once, no matter how smart
in
you
all
are.
honesty, I'm not sure I've ever really tried to play a game blindfolded. I don't know that I want to play a game blindfolded either, but I might try sometime.
I mean,
Jonathan, what's the world record for the most simultaneous blindfold games? Do you know?
I don't know the current record. I know that Reshevsky played 40 blindfolded games at the same time, and I think won like 30 of them. A couple of draws.
That's
I think
insane.
maybe he lost 2 games. You know, it would be like on board 1 they played this, and he'd give the response, and then on board 2 they played this, and he'd give the response. It's a blindfolded simul. I could not by any means do that.
No.
Maybe if I was pushed to my limit, I could do 2 blindfolded games at the same time. But that would be almost impossible. I mean, that's not something I can commit to doing. 1 at a time is enough for me, thanks. But yeah, 40 games at once is, I think, about the record. It might be slightly higher than that.
Well, gentlemen, maybe you can offer a little advice to this young man that's joined him. This is my son, Atticus.
Hello.
And Atticus has a history with this tournament as well. He grew up and played chess and won a few and lost a few, and still plays on the Ole Miss chess team sometimes. And he's a recent college graduate. Pleased with that, but he's trying to look for the next step. But he plays an awful lot of online chess. So, what advice do you have for him for life and for making him a better chess player? Because he's passed his mother in the 3rd grade, not the 5th grade. He passed me many years ago. So.
What's your rating, Atticus?
Yes. So I don't have really an official USCF. I haven't played a tournament in meaningfully like in a long time. Like chess.com and Lead Chess, I have ratings there.
What's your chess.com rating? Rapid.
Chess.com rapid rating is 1803.
Okay, you're a strong player then.
Yeah,
I
very
mean,
good.
that's all there's to it.
I
mean, there's
may
some
not
book
be a strong
recommendations
player,
there,
but I gave birth to strong players. So here's one of them. And he was taught by his grandpa. And this is the young man whose younger brother was told to not chew on the pieces and he could watch.
Yeah, I heard y'all mentioning blindfold chess, and I try to practice that a little bit and work on that visualization. But I honestly probably couldn't really complete a game and win all that well if it's past 20 moves or something. I'd blunder something probably in the middle.
That does tend to happen.
A lot of us will.
Yeah. But if both players are blindfolded, it's like if you leave a piece hanging, the other player might not see it. I mean, once you go back and reconstruct the game after the fact,
You see
a lot of
lots that
stuff
you
shows
missed.
up. Yeah. What I like to do with kids is I'll have them play blindfolded, but I'll have them notate the game, right, as they're playing. So if you get lost, you can go back and start from the beginning. Where is my queen? Well, just look up. When's the last time you moved the queen? You moved it to d3, and so queen d3 is the last move. So you can go back and sort of reconstruct the position. And if they completely get lost, play the game up to the point where they get lost, and then stop moving the pieces. Now you have a board, and then you keep going. And then if you get lost again, that's only 5 moves ago. Just go back and keep going. That's the general training. I mean, I start that kind of thing with them early, 2nd grade, that kind of thing. And yes, it's hard. They get lost after 5 moves. But then the next time they do it, they get 7 moves. And then the next time, it's like 8 moves. It's like a little bit more each time.
And this is a tremendous exercise for visualization and being able to see the board, to look ahead, so many moves. If you can play a whole game blindfolded, then there's really no limit to how far you can see when you're trying to find combinations on the board.
Right. Well, if you're playing blindfolded, you want to find like simple forced variations. You
Right.
can't do a blindfold game and do deep tactical calculation. That's not
Right.
That's
But
not
if
really
you
an
can play
option.
blindfolded, then when you're playing an over the board game, you can go very deep with your tactical calculations.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Definitely. I think it's kind of an undervalued part of chess, at least recreationally. People are like, oh, it helps creativity, it helps logic. Generally, yeah, I mean, those things are benefited, but yeah, your ability to just map the board and visualize it. I mean, thinking about the board and the consequences that happen from a static position that you can't move. I think that's a really big benefit that people don't really evaluate or see normally.
Oh yeah, for sure. And like one of the things, like for a developing player, playing blitz games is completely counterproductive, right? Because they're just moving pieces around as quickly as they can. But then you watch two grandmasters play like a bullet game, 1 minute, and they're making good moves. I mean, they're missing stuff because it's a bullet game, but they have an idea, not just what's on the board, but what can happen. And so the moment something happens, they've already figured 5 moves ago, oh, there's an opportunity for some kind of sacrifice on this square. Now, it's not here yet. It might not ever arise, but it is a potential thing that can happen. And so the moment it becomes available, they're already looking for it. They don't have to recalculate on every move. Right? You want to keep this little ledger of potential options. I've won many, many games with a horrible position because I'm sitting there trying to stay alive, and then my opponent makes a mistake, and I've been waiting for them to move that piece. And the moment they do it, it's like, oh, great, now finally I have this backup plan. There's a player from Nashville who's pretty good, Adam Steed, who's like 1,800, and every time we play in a tournament, he has just a crushingly winning position. And I've swindled him every time because I'm looking for something, and as soon as he makes a mistake, I'm like, oh, I already knew what to do if you play that. So it's not about calculating now. It's about figuring out what can happen in the future. That's more important. You don't have time to reanalyze every move. You can't do that.
Jonathan, are you planning to go to the international tournament in Iceland?
I have never left the United States. That's expensive. So
That's a very expensive trip. Yeah.
yeah, I teach chess for a living. Come on, you're asking me if I'm gonna hop on a plane and go to Iceland. I mean, I can't afford that. So
I don't know.
if someone,
I'll put it this way: I've never been, but I didn't know. I mean, right now, plane tickets are a lot less expensive than they were 3 or 4 years ago.
that's certainly true.
Iceland's expensive though.
Yeah, see,
Yeah.
actually, the reason she probably asked that, the leading question probably, but that I want to go to Reykjavik and play in Iceland. Now, I haven't looked into that really, and like I don't know if I really can, because I don't know about FIDE, I don't know about, I don't know any of the qualifications that would entail. But if I can go and play in Iceland, I kind of want to go. Side note.
As far as I know, if you don't have an established rating, you would be forced to play in the top one. But that's
Really
okay.
Yeah, I don't
The
mind. I
open-
just want to go.
The unrated division. Yeah.
Yeah, well, no, the open section.
Okay.
If you play in a tournament and you don't have a rating, they make you play at the top. Right? They're not going to let you sneak in and beat all the players at the bottom. So you have to have an established rating. There may be like a second section. You know, they may not make you actually play it with the grandmasters and stuff. But
I might play open anyway. Would want to.
Good.
That
Good.
would
I
be
mean, trust me, there's nothing I would love
We
more
say, you know.
than to play in a tournament where I'm the lowest rated player. Like
Yeah.
that would be phenomenal. Because when I play in a tournament, most of the time I have those 5 rounds. 3 of those games are against low rated opponents, not people I can beat, easily. These are games I have to pay attention to, but they're not games that I benefit from winning. It's like I gain like 2 rating points or something, and if I make a mistake, they are good enough to win, and then I get 1 or 2 games against a stronger opponent. I would love to have a tournament where all 5 games are just against people who are way better than I am. Those would be the best possible learning experiences. And those are hard to find unless you travel. Traveling costs money, so...
Yeah. He's
But-
got a little bit of money saved. His mother's will not be funding the trip. We'll put it that way. His mother is not funding the trip. But this young college graduate that's trying to figure out what to do next, Well, Atticus, what are some of your memories of the tournament, or what has chess done for you? If I may brag for a moment, he may not bring this up, but I'm going to tell one of my Atticus memories. Was when I do a lot of tournaments for DeSoto County, and many years ago, maybe 10 years ago, the U.S. Chess the National Association for Speech and Debate was having a tournament in Birmingham, and the district allowed me to go over there because I was looking into starting a speech and debate tournament. And we observed all the tournament for 3 or 4 days. They were in middle school at the time. Atticus was in middle school, and his younger chess playing, chewing brother was in middle school. And the very last day, we were way up high in this Sheraton ballroom, and we were watching the final rounds of debate for this great huge tournament that had 8,000 students competing in different categories. And we were just having a ball. It was my husband and myself and my 2 sons, and we were just way up high, and we could talk to each other, and it was just a lot of fun to watch. And then it was a little bit later that Atticus told me that was sort of a moment for him, because he'd been active at trying to be better in chess. And he said he thought to himself, he'd been to super nationals, and he said, I'll never win that tournament, but I could win this. I could do this. And Atticus was the high school Catholic chess champion. I mean, not chess, excuse me, speech and debate champion in public forum debate. And that's like the second largest speech and debate tournament in the country. And but Atticus, so you was very successful at speech and debate and moderately successful at chess. But how do those 2 things, did chess help you be more successful at speech and debate? What about that epiphany moment for you when you decided to not work as hard at chess and focus on debate? Just share a little bit with the young people that are watching.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I love both activities. I grew up playing chess, and then I switched to debate, and I love both of them. I was able to do debate a little bit in college as well, and so I carry on chess in college alongside debate. They're 2 things that I've done pretty much my whole life.
Do they complement each other or not?
I think they complement each other in the sense that they're both just educational, competitive activities that involve logic and reasoning and competition. And I think really what
intellectual, they're not necessarily
exactly.
academic, either one of them, although both of them have been researched to prove that they enhance academics.
Yeah,
definitely. There's the correlation, the causation, it's clear. But it's a very intellectual, at the time you're doing it's a very intellectual moment. So
yeah, I think I totally agree with that, and I think that I think the main reason I really have enjoyed both of them, and it might all start from chess in a way, but I really do think of myself as like just a competitor in a way. I like to compete anytime, anywhere, and I like to really like go hard and do my best. And at a young age, chess kind of teaches you that. You have to learn how to lose, and learn how to take crushing defeats at a very young age. That doesn't really happen that much.
And that is such a good opportunity for 4th graders who are out there. If you're a parent listening to me or listening to this recording, you need to give your children opportunities to fail, and then they learn life goes on. That's more important than opportunities to win, because if they're a bright, competitive kid, they're going to have plenty of opportunities to win, but they need opportunities to fail and overcome that failure and go on. So, Atticus, continue. I just had to be a school teacher for a minute. Go ahead.
Certainly, yeah. We all know, like, whenever we were playing at a young age, there would be children who would come out of the game, lose, and then they would be in tears or throwing a fit or something like that. And there's nothing wrong. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Just at a young age, they're being appropriately, but if they're not given that experience through chess, that's going to come out at a different time. I think chess just allows an opportunity through elementary age to just compete and learn how to appropriately lose and win, and how to be a competitor. Anyway, drawing that to other events, I find that I like to compete. I really enjoyed competing from a young age. chess kind of instilled that in me. That was really like the first competition I ever did by like 5, like being a competitor in chess. And so I've loved to compete ever since. I don't know. That's kind of the way that I link the two, not in how they played off of each other, but how they kind of operate in my life, I feel like.
Hmm. Well, you've really taken a passion for chess has come back into your life lately. And you, when I was trying to figure out how to do this, you sort of did a commercial for lachess.org. She loved it. But how do you play now? I mean, you've just graduated from college. You've got a very strong GPA, double major and a minor. But
Philosophy.
what
I worked out on
philosophy and public policy and business, all three.
We don't mention that.
But what about but philosophy's great. I'm very happy you decided you wanted to be a philosophy
Many people
major
don't
along
think
with
so.
some other
They think
things too. But what about what made you what makes you want to get back into the game now, and how might that help you? I mean, like right now you're not really looking for a serious job, but you hope to. I hope that you will soon. So
Hey, Starbucks barista is a serious job, all right?
yes.
Oh, for a philosophy student, I mean, that's. I mean,
Exactly, exactly.
Who's your favorite philosopher, Atticus?
Man, that's a tough question.
That's a hard. Just give me a branch in general, then.
Of all time?
Yeah, sure. You can be as broad or as specific as you like.
Favorite philosopher?
You didn't anticipate that question.
No, these are nuclear questions for people who read this stuff. I mean, there's not an easy
I know,
way
but
to
I mean,
answer.
also he didn't anticipate it from Chester.
But
Well, I don't know. I mean, I took a class on Plato and Aristotle. I like both of them. They're both interesting to me. That's a little
Who
Greek.
was that? Who was the French guy you were arguing about the other day?
We were arguing about Michel Foucault.
oh man, well, what's your stance?
Well, the stance we were arguing about with me and my other brother who came on the other day was totally not related to like Michel Foucault's philosophy.
Oh well, we should keep it stream friendly, but
Sure,
it's
exactly. So, yeah, Michel Foucault, as a philosopher, I haven't read him, but I mean, I'm aware of him and Jacques Derrida and like postmodernism, and I think it's an interesting. Yeah, I mean, I like reading it.
right.
I think it's interesting stuff.
I have difficulty with postmodernists in general. It's like the question of grand narratives and stuff throughout history. It's clear that it's difficult to bring that stuff into modernity because the rate of change is such that it's hard to keep things together and create these broad narratives about it. But it's too much. I mean, I tend to stick to, the virtue ethics is what actually works. It's like whether it actually corresponds to
Jonathan
real.
contemplating something that's too much.
It's
Can you imagine?
it's.
That's hard to imagine, Jonathan, that something's just a little too much for your
No,
brain to want to contemplate.
I'm going to be frank for a
Sorry.
second.
I just had to chime in there. I'm sorry, I'm out again.
I think I'm kind of a smart guy, but the smarter you get, the more capable you are of reading things by people who are so much smarter than you that you feel like a moron. So, like you can be a smart guy and you're really into philosophy, and then you try to read Kant's Prolegomena to any future metaphysics, and you're like, wow, I have no idea what I'm reading. And it takes you like 6 hours to get through the first chapter, and you're like, in my experience is that I'm smart enough to understand anything I can possibly read. And then you read the Prolegomena and you think, this is the introduction, and I can barely make it through the introduction to the introduction. And that's it. And that's how you end up spending 20 years reading 2 books. And that's, philosophy is a lot of fun, but it's just another one of those things.
I'll support it and plug it whenever, even though people are quick to shame it and laugh at it. It's totally okay when people do that. It's fine. But yeah,
Well,
it's a lot of fun, and it's like chess almost.
Yeah, but they don't understand that, the stance that they're taking by saying like, oh, it's just meaningless words on paper and it doesn't do anything in real life. That is a philosophical stance. You're not taking a philosophically neutral stance by rejecting philosophy. It doesn't work. So, the stance that they're taking is untenable, I think, but they're trying to have their cake and eat it too. They're like, oh well, I think that all of this is just useless words on a page, but all of the great historical figures. I mean, if you're an American patriot, for example, you can't say that philosophy is meaningless when all of the founding fathers are directly citing Locke and Hobbes and all of these Enlightenment philosophers the whole time they're writing these documents. Words on a page affect people's behaviors who are historically relevant figures. It's not irrelevant. It's very relevant. So, I mean, I don't want to derail the entire stream just talking about 300-year-old books, but it's a lot of fun.
People don't know enough about philosophy and philosophers, and how many people could probably name philosophers that are still alive today? I mean, so people that were hugely influential 100, 200, 300 years ago are becoming slowly forgotten. You mentioned Kant. I mean, I've been reading and watching a lot about Hegel. Hegel's largely forgotten, at least in casual American lingo, maybe not in Europe, but
right.
He's pretty interesting.
Hegel's a lot of fun. I've been reading Kojève. I don't think the book is in here, but it's his introduction to the phenomenology of spirit has been.
Any of those philosophers play chess?
Well, considering that basically everyone before 1865
speaking of
was
chess, let's
terrible
get back
at
to the chess
then,
games.
They probably did, but they weren't very good. Well, there's not much to talk about in the chess games, I think, at this point. They're just mostly capturing each other's pieces.
Hey, Emily, we can't hear you. You're muted.
Yeah.
It's a flowing moment, and you know, a lot of young chess players will grow up and have philosophy and go up. I think my point is to the parents that are listening out there is if your child is playing chess in the 4th grade, whether they decide to be a athletic coach or a lot of other things, they're probably going to have a successful life. They may not have a financially successful life in every way, but you've certainly given them a lifelong hobby. That's it. I call it an international language. They can go anywhere and find someone with a chessboard who would probably be interested in playing.
I think the only place where you couldn't go and easily find chess players are places where they have regional chess games that are more common. Like, it's very difficult to find people in Japan who play international chess because shogi is much more common in Japan. I play both games, but like if you're good at one, it's very easy to get good at the other. So because they're in the same family. But in general, it's not hard to find chess players anywhere you go.
I've had a little bit of experience with shogi thanks to Ann Cagle at Pleasant Hill, but I don't play. But we've experienced it. Some of our former students do. But Craig, what's the tournament doing though? What do you think? Do we have any clear leaders?
Well, I'm waiting for that board 1 to finish to see. That's really where I think we have both of these people have perfect score, I think.
Yeah, they're the only two with 3 out of 3 at the moment.
Yeah.
We hate to have a tie at the end. Are we in round 5 or round?
We're in round 4.
So I break it.
The only way there can be a tie is if there are players that don't have a perfect score, right?
Yes.
So the formula is if you have 5 rounds, 2 to the 5th. If you have less than 32 players, it's impossible to have 2 perfect scores at the end of the event. If you have more than 32, it is possible to have 2 perfect scores at the end, but very rare.
Never figured that out.
No,
We've always had such big tournaments. We were always going to have ties. So.
Yeah, I mean, at nationals where there's 7 rounds, right? If there's more than 128 players in a section, it is possible for 2 players to have a perfect score at the end. And actually, when I was in 2nd or 3rd grade, I won K3 under 800 at nationals with 7 out of 7. Some other kid also got 7 out of 7. So there were 2 perfect scores because the section was so big. And there wasn't a playoff or anything. I forget who won on tie breaks, but I don't think it matters. But yeah, if you have too many people, it's possible to have 2 perfect scores in a tournament.
Well, just in case anyone is Super Nationals going to happen again next year in Nashville?
I don't know. It's always been my father's responsibility to keep track of the calendar. I just show up to the events.
Well, that's the only national tournament that we usually get a few players to have that experience.
Why Super Nationals?
Well, it's in Nashville.
It won't be for
Close
long.
enough to get there.
I think the next Super Nationals is in Nashville, but I think their contract with the Oprylands ran out, and so they're moving somewhere else for the Super Nationals after this upcoming one.
Well, we liked it being in Nashville because we could get there. It's you don't have to have a plane trip to go.
There's always sometimes Nationals is in like Atlanta or somewhere else that is accessible, or Dallas,
Texas. Yeah.
I recommend going. I mean, yeah, it's a 10-hour drive, right? But the 10-hour drive, it's a good reason to make the kids focus.
I love giving kids the opportunity to compete at the national level. It's great for them.
Right. I mean, but I when we go to like Dallas, Texas for a national tournament, I remind the kids, it's like your parents drove 10 hours to get you here, and they're going to drive 10 hours to get you back. And so you better not play these games in 20 minutes. You know, like that's
That's right. Atticus, you've done some coaching, some on a very limited level, some chess coaching. Do you have any words for these fourth graders and their parents?
Yeah, I have done coaching, and I actually think, oddly, I think coaching, I'm a little bit better at that than playing, probably. I think I'm an okay teacher. So I've taught up chess more than most college students.
Yeah, and honestly, you've taught kids you taught the high school kids in Meridian, and then some locally in Oxford. So
Yes, locally in Oxford. I taught a little bit in high school. Anyway, yeah, I don't know about parting words for these fourth graders. But yeah, I've taught chess. I think it's a great game, great activity, great game to learn. And yeah, I think I've enjoyed playing. I love playing.
did you stay
Not
on your
much more
high
than that.
school chess team? You wanted to be on the high school chess team.
Yes, in high school, I kind of stopped practicing as much. I was playing when I was real little, like everyone else, it seems, in here, but stopped studying as much in high school. I still played, though, and I wanted to be on the team. And joined the team and did well at the really one tournament we went to, the DeSoto County Chess Championship. Which, yes, I did well when I was younger, but in high school, everyone knew what they were doing a little bit more, so.
Yeah, it gets a little tougher. Well, I don't know if you have anything you need to do, but thank you for joining us today.
Yes.
You can hang out and talk to these gentlemen about chess and philosophy if you'd like to. Craig might not put up with any more philosophy.
Well, we'll wait until after the tournament, Atticus. If you don't mind, maybe we can stick around and play some games on Lead Chess, and if you have time.
I can just keep watching the stream on Twitch, and then I don't have to stay in the Zoom call unless I stay in the
You're
Zoom
welcome to stay in the Zoom call and start talking, and I'll check out for a second and go see what's going on here.
You can if you want to.
You got to talk, Atticus.
Yeah, once the last round is over, if you want to log back into the call and maybe we can play some games or something, it can throw that on as a bonus at the end.
Yeah, that sounds fun, actually. I'd love to play. I might make some lunch, though.
Yeah,
I got like 30 minutes.
Let's see. We've got one more round after this one. It could be 30 minutes. Could be even faster. I mean, you never know with kids this age, but it should be about that long.
Okay, well, I'll jump back in here in a little bit, try and keep up. Best of luck to all the competitors. Thank you, Jonathan, Craig, and Miss Nelson.
Nice to meet you, Atticus.
Best of luck. Yes, nice to meet you as well.
Goodbye, son.
It looks like the game that you were looking at earlier, it was complicated for a while, but it's now White's just up a pawn and a rook. He still has to win the game, which isn't necessarily a given, but...
Nail biter. I just got an email from Morgan Taylor, and she was, as I suspected, duties were keeping her from calling in a few minutes ago, but I told her she could go ahead and call in anytime. That would be fine. She missed her old teammate in Matt Burke, but she may... Have we had any technical difficulties, Craig, since we were able to get started?
There was someone who, a computer went down in one of the classrooms. They had to reboot it. So I'm assuming that person was able to get back in. I don't know which player it was.
Hope so. We had a lot of troubles the day of the middle school tournament, but we've, other than this morning was sort of stressful.
Yeah.
What do you
We got
think?
through it.
Yes.
I was afraid it was going to be a stalemate.
there were, it's not the fastest way, but at least it's not.
Uh-oh.
Well, come on.
Just push the king to the edge and king there. Good. Mate.
All right.
Is it
There it
coming?
is. Let's see.
Great.
Yay.
Yeah.
I knew what they were doing.
That's all it takes.
Yep.
If you just have some idea of what to do, you will win games.
So Toby W, I think that's what it says, has a perfect score right now. There's still one more round.
Right.
So
They could
still
lose
chances
the next
for
round,
ties.
right?
Yeah, if they lose the next round and one of those threes wins, then
There's still a
tie.
potential 3.5. Right. So
Oh, wow.
yeah,
Sure
one of
enough.
these could
Yeah.
win. Or if they draw, there's like 6 threes. So
a lot of times in tournaments, you'll see the players go up to the wall to the postings to see, how the current round is fleshing out and where everyone's standing, just so they can see, what are their chances. If there's a prize, do they need to win their next round? Do they need to draw their next round? Because it matters. It also matters, of my potential opponents, what colors do they have? What are they playing right now? Because that will influence what color you get in the next round, so you can start preparing early.
right. Yeah, many times I'm trying to figure out who I'm going to get in the next round so that I can go refresh my lines based on what openings they
Yep.
play and stuff like that.
You'll see me a lot of times in a tournament. Especially if it's players that I'm not familiar with. Like when I go to the state championships, I'll actually walk around every round, looking at the boards and remembering which players play which openings with particular color, so that I know whenever I get paired with them, I have a good idea what they might play, and I can go ahead and start prepping for that. A few minutes before the round, or if it's the next day, then I can do it during the night if I know I'm going to be playing them.
Yeah, some people are generalists. They play a bunch of different openings, and those people can
Yeah.
be hard to prepare for. But like,
Sure.
if you
But
know
most
you're going to
don't.
play me, you know what I'm going to play. I play the same
Yep.
openings in every game, right? So
I'm going to get the King's Indian against you.
yeah, it's always the
Well, I
same.
had to Atticus that one time. But,
And you're going to get the same-ish against me, so.
one of the things about the high school when I was in nationals, when I was at Nashville at the Super Nationals with some kids in the past, was how much the high school kids do roam all over the place when they play. They just make a move and then roam all over the place, and then make another move and roam all over the place. And they'll watch the boards up on the stage, and while they're watching their own games too, and they all have on their earbuds.
Not anymore.
Yeah, not anymore. Unfortunately.
Are they able to take out the earbuds? Do they still roam around?
They're banned, but you can
Earbuds
still
are
roam
banned?
around.
Yeah, you
Any
still-
electronic is banned.
They're probably thinking they're getting Bluetooth messages. So.
Yeah.
But it was, for the most part, little kids sit there and play their own game. Maybe that's just they've had that elementary doctrinated into them. So, but the high school kids just, nobody. I didn't think anybody was trying to cheat. It's just that was
Yeah.
how they cleared their head. I guess they had enough visual ability to look at that board, and then while they were walking around, they were working it out.
Craig, I have considered rigging together some kind of hand-cranked cassette player so that way if they're like, oh, that's an electronic device. I'm like, no, technically there is no electrical
But
input.
what if you have opening theory being recited on that
No,
cassette tape?
I know, right? Like it's not. It's they're real strict about it now. I used to always have earbuds in.
Me
Always.
too. I always played with music, and now I can't anymore. And now I have to actually get foam earplugs because people walking around and making noise, clunking their feet, coughing and stuff, it just drives me crazy. And so I would always use music to tune that out, and now I have to use foam earbuds to just listen to absolutely nothing except the blood flowing in my ears.
Yeah. What I do is the day before a tournament, I sit and listen to the same album over and over and over again, so that when I'm sitting at the board the next day, I can sort of play the music by memory in my head. That's the only substitute I've come up with.
Well, let me welcome Morgan. She has joined us. Morgan Matt Burke was on earlier, and he told us all about his side of things, that he didn't even really realize that you were playing to be the first female champion. And it was kind of fun to see, to get an update from him on all the things that he's doing. But I saw that you got to watch the video that I posted on my Facebook page a few nights ago.
Yes.
What did you think of yourself?
It's embarrassing seeing yourself on TV, but
It was very popular. I've had lots of that was a popular clip, and I'm going to send it to my teachers so they can show their students where they're talking about chess, because I just thought it was precious. But do you have anything that you'd like to add to that? I hate that you missed Matt, one of the boys you grew up playing with.
Yes, I'm so sorry. It's field day out here at Oak Grove Middle, and with that comes a lot of watching kids.
Yeah, there does. I've been an assistant principal, and you have to be you have to react to the moment, and all hands on deck. So, and it's right at the end of the year. They're getting a little excited. So.
Oh yes, definitely.
And I'm glad they are, because we've had such a year of masks and sanitizer.
Yes,
all that stuff. It's time that they get to be out and be kids again. So
yes, well, I missed getting to see Matt and talk with him, but he was a great player, and when I sat down that last game and knew I had to play him, I was just like, oh goodness. So
yeah, but you didn't let them scare you. You did it. It was your thing to do. So
yes.
What would you like to add to that tape that you talked about? I mean, it was precious. The story about your husband saying that having his friends see if they can beat his wife in chess is just really classic.
Oh yeah, he still
can't beat that.
No, it's great.
Any other stories that you could that might help these teachers? Like, there's a lot of teachers out there that are spotlight teachers, and you had Miss Ballard and Miss Sharon Walker, and I think both of them would pretty much tell you they were not great chess players. Now, they got Mike Stewart in to help coach, and he ended up sort of being the area-wide coach. But your teachers were not great chess players. I'm sure you could beat any of them by the 4th grade or the 5th grade, both of them. I'm sure you could beat both of them. But they were your facilitators.
Right.
But how can you encourage? We have a few spotlight teachers that don't play chess. What can you tell them if they were on your staff?
Well, in my opinion, it's about giving the kids the knowledge of what the pieces do and how the game functions, and for them to strategically think of how to win the game themselves. Mm-hmm. So I do believe in coaching and, learning from people that are good at chess. But in my opinion, you have to be the one that thinks outside of the box and decides how to win the game.
I think, yeah, I'm with you. The fact that a lot of kids do improve themselves. Mm-hmm. Like, they may read one book and then they read a whole bunch of books, like Craig pointed out in Tuesday, but if you're, we've got some teachers who don't have kids in this tournament today because they're just nervous about the whole experience. They don't think their kids can win. Maybe they don't feel like the best teacher, or they don't play themselves or don't play well. They had to learn the chess.org system. Can you offer them any encouragement as to that it's, is it worth it?
It's great. I loved getting to play chess, and kids that aren't good at other things might be good at chess. That might be their niche and where they fit in, because everybody's not an athlete. You have to look at the strengths of your students, and, it's about opening doors and giving them opportunities. So you might have to step outside of your box and be uncomfortable as a classroom teacher to give the students the experiences and the opportunities that they need to be successful. My suggestion would be always have a board out. I know we could always play chess when we finished anything in our gifted classes. I used to get done with my math work really fast, and my teacher allowed me to, have a little handheld chess game that I played, and that was good as well. Use the technology that's out there. If you don't know how to play chess yourself, you can do online chess classes. You can have your students just play the computer. I mean, any of that would give them to the ability to compete. And I feel like the teachers that aren't participating would be selling the kids short or selling themselves short if they don't at least try. Because I mean, you're not going to win every game. You can be the best chess player ever and walk in and just mess up. It happens.
Well, we've had a few people call in and tell us the benefits of losing, because it's tenacity. You try again the next day. But with lachess.org being such a friendly website and being free, there's no reason why a kid can't play a chess game on their DeSoto County School issued device when they are through with whatever work they're doing. I can't think of a more intellectually stimulating, if we're trying to build synaptic pathways, then that would be a great activity for, instead of giving them another worksheet so they do more of the same, to let them play chess on their device.
Yeah, we're very
about as beneficial as reading a book.
Right. We're very lucky at my school district. We're all 1-to-1 on Chromebooks. So, I tell the kids to use those opportunities, use Imagine Literacy, Imagine Math. If you finish your work and you're going to get in trouble, or, you're going to talk to your friends, find another way to entertain yourself versus getting in trouble.
Mm-hmm. To challenge that brain. And
right.
That is great. That is great.
It's great. It really is. We have a chess program here at my school. From time to time, I like to go in and play the kids. And I just tell them from the start, I'm like, I'm just letting you know, I'm not going to let you win. So I'm like, this is tough love. If you beat me, but I'm not just going to let you win.
That's right. Of course, you're not going to let them win. You're going to, they have to earn it. You're their master.
Yeah, it's great.
The little paddle ones, But what is your chess club? What type of kids are on your chess club? What do they do for the school?
It's our 5th and 6th graders out here that are in gifted education here. They go to a little tournament. Of course, with COVID this year, they haven't done that. We're in the process of creating like one of the giant chess sets out on our playground area for the kids, just to kind of give them something else to do. Basically, they just play each other in gifted like we used to, figure out who's going to be on the team, and they go and compete, and it's pretty good.
Do you have, are they all good A students, or some of them A, B students, or some of them not so good students? There's a lot of different.
At this age group, it's still the kids that tested into gifted. So those kids necessarily don't all have the highest academics. They just, think outside the box or have some kind of meet some kind of criteria to be in that program. So, you do have an array of students in the program.
We've had a few downright bad students that were in Spotlight and great chess players.
Oh, yeah.
And they're now that they're grown men, they just call in and tell you that.
Right.
Greg, our tournament director.
Let me chime in on that. So I was not in Spotlight until 7th grade. They tested me very late for it. So I actually missed out on all the chess stuff that they did. But I loved chess and would have been I feel would have been a pretty decent contribution to the team had it been open to non-Spotlight kids. So I'm all for trying to open up chess. It used to be when I was teaching at Oak Grove Central Elementary here in Hernando, chess was just the Spotlight kids. And when I agreed to coach there, I said, let's open it up to the whole school. Let's get it so that we can have a large tournament, and just whoever makes the team, and then we'll coach those kids. We just had a big tournament, and we took the top players out of the tournament. And that became the team that we coached. And then after we were done with the county tournament, we then opened it back up to the whole school, to anyone who wanted to come in and play and learn chess.
Yeah. And when it's done as a club rather than a class, you have the flexibility to do that.
Right.
You have to have parents that'll pick their kids up after school or find that time during the day, which is sort of hard at the elementary level to find that time. But no, I've always felt strongly that we do not own chess. Spotlight does not own chess, and sometimes there are kids that need to be identified, and making the chess team helps us to, realize that. But we've had some kids that grew up in Spotlight and were terrible students and struggled all the way through. And I had one of them call in the day that you called in and talk about, yes, he's a high school graduate. whew, but it took a lot. And if he hadn't had chess to be, he hadn't been able to be on that chess team all the way through school, I feel certain that he might have opted for the GED option or something else.
I was definitely one of those students that was capable in school and made good grades, but I had to try really hard. I felt like I was often like underestimated by my ability because I wouldn't say I was the brightest kid. Growing up, I had trouble reading. I never liked it. I'm pretty sure I was probably dyslexic before it could be super identified like it is now, all the initiatives.
Yeah,
Found it out when I like put up a train that said Noel, and my mom's like, why'd you make the train say Leon? I was like, it says Noel. So.
Well, there's a higher incidence of dyslexia among the gifted than among the general population. A lot of people don't realize that. There's a lot more of the things that are perceived as negatives that are in the gifted population. Although a lot of dyslexics would argue that it's not necessarily a negative.
Is that the case, or is it the case that gifted students are more likely to be tested for those kinds of things that it might? I'm not sure, right? But
I think it's a combination of both. But there's a book out there called The Brain on Fire that will talk about how if you've got synaptic pathways firing so fast anyway, that yes, you're going to have a higher incident of lack of attention and a higher incident of looking at things in a different way.
I know there are disorders that are correlated with intelligence for that exact kind of reason. I'm not sure that we have a really exhaustive list though. I'll definitely check that book out though. Let me put that.
Morgan, you were going to say?
I was going to say with the initiatives they have now, I wouldn't say it would be the fact that gifted is just tested more, because every student K2 is tested multiple times throughout their beginning education and their learning to read. So I would say, everybody's getting identified now, and that's a great thing, because I was in that Redbird group. We were flying low, or the Bluebirds. We were struggling, but we got there.
Maybe they were the Crows, but yes, we had I was not a particularly gifted reader as a young child either. I think I got a little better as I got older, but I was not. I had other gifts, and they weren't always that.
But as for chess, I started playing because my sister played. We're 18 months apart. We had a grade between us in school, and I wanted to be able to do anything she did, and my goal was to be able to beat her. So started out her learning from Miss Ballard and just whooping my tail until one day I finally got her.
Well, I was speaking with my boss, Lucy Hasselman, and she watched your video the other day, and she was the young Miss Hasselman at Hernando Middle School that was the cheerleading sponsor of your sister. Yes. And she remembered you and said, oh, they were such cute girls. That was so exciting. She had such a good time watching you. And as a grown woman, we both agreed we needed you back in DeSoto County. But anyway, she said, sends her best and remembered coaching your sister as the cheerleader sponsor.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Well, Craig, are we in round 5?
We are.
Okay. So we're getting close to the end. Morgan, thank you for calling in. It was a little late.
Sorry. Thank you.
That's okay. I understand the life of an assistant principal. So thank you.
Crazy.
Thank you for finding time for us.
You had a great day. Thanks.
Keep in touch. Bye-bye. So, Craig, are we down to just a few games?
It's more than what's shown here, I believe.
Yeah, we're currently at 13 games still going on.
Oh, so we've got a while. They're not playing quite as fast as they were playing then.
Which is good, and that tends to be the case. Your games slow down as the rounds progress because they get harder. So or they get more matched.
Yeah, so. and they're maybe a little less nervous too. So.
Yeah, later in the tournament, the skills tend to converge. That's more the case in a tournament where the players have established ratings. But in this event, almost everyone went in with a default rating, so the pairings were sort of random from the beginning. But if you have a tournament where everyone has an established rating, they do it on purpose, where, like, if you have 10 people, number 1 plays number 6, number 2 plays number 7, and then after they win, they do the same thing in each score group. And so by the very last round, you should have, like, the top 2 players are playing each other, and then number 3 and 4 are playing each other, and so on. and so it sorts itself out by the end of the event. Depending on how many people and how many rounds, you might accelerate the pairings, and that's getting into some technical stuff, but it is that way by design. All players get more appropriate games for their rating as the tournament goes on.
If winners play winners and losers play losers, and you end up at the end really evenly matched with someone.
Right.
If you're lucky.
In a nutshell, yeah.
I mean, some people will get easier pairings for whatever reason in the early rounds, but that balances out, right? But like if you're at the top, your first game is gonna be against someone in the bottom half. So your first game would be quote unquote easy. But if you're playing in a tournament that has sections, like if there's an open section and an under 1600 section, then even though I'm near the top of the pairings, so I will have a lower rated opponent, I'm still going to get someone who is good enough to beat me if I don't play seriously, right? But if it's just one big section, my first round is going to be against someone who may or may not know basic ideas, right? So that's why you want to have sections in tournaments.
Yes. Big tournaments, especially.
Jonathan's bringing up an interesting point because, you can be rated 2,000 and be playing at 1,600. But if you drop a rook, you're
Yes.
probably going to lose. And
That's right.
so
That it gets up there. I was right. I wanted to make sure I had the name of the book right. It is Brains on Fire: the multimodality of gifted thinkers by Dr. Alan Thompson.
Okay.
As the book I was quoting, and if you just Google gifted education brains on fire, you'll get a little scenario about the neuroscience of that's come out about gifted brain research.
Do you know what year that book was published?
I looked at it 4 or 5 years ago, so it's not the most current book, but it's still kind of information that's out there and talked about.
Right.
So
Right.
I don't have that. Let me see if I can go back to the website that I had. I'll look it up a second if I can. There's something here I just read referencing an article in 2017. So
Okay.
it was reviewed in 2017 on that article I just pulled up. So it either came out in 2017 or 2016.
Yeah, I'll have to check it out. There are always a lot of gifted kids in chess programs, right? My typical philosophy is that chess should be pushed at both ends of the spectrum. Ideally,
And in
everyone
the middle,
should play,
you don't want
right?
to forget the middle kids too.
Of course, I would
Yeah.
like that everyone plays, but the ones who get the most direct benefits are the ones on either end. You have the gifted kids who are typically not so much challenged by the typical academic content, and so you want something that actively challenges them. And then you have kids that are sort of behind the curve, and chess is very effective at catching them up very quickly. Giving them something that requires active thinking will catch them up on subjects that they have had difficulty with. The kids in the middle, everyone benefits from playing chess, but I don't think they benefit quite as much as either of the groups on the ends of the spectrum. I've had kids in the program who had a lot of difficulty with math and science and stuff, and it took a while for them to learn to play. It was a slower process, but it was clear at the end of the process that they had benefited greatly from that. Oh, it looks like our top player has dropped his queen.
Drop a queen.
Oh no!
I mean, White hasn't developed any
I'd say
pieces.
about
right?
the kids in the middle. Just to mention the kids in the middle too. There's so much attention put on the kids that are the underachievers. There's a little bit of attention put on the kids that are the high achievers. Maybe a pat on the back, but But like Craig was saying, he did not get identified as a spotlight kid in elementary school, and so you might have been one of those kids in the middle. But you by being interested, you were self-sorting yourself, and you were definitely you were the unidentified kid that for some reason had a bad day during that math screening back in the second grade.
That's the thing. That didn't exist back then. So they were not mass testing. My first IQ test happened in fifth grade or sixth grade, sorry, and I passed it. And the way that the testing was done, they only chose one kid, and that was whoever scored the highest. His name was Cliff. I remember him well.
Cliff got to be gifted today.
No, that's the thing. So Cliff got to take the second test, but Cliff did not score enough on the second test. So then they came and tested me the next year because I was next in line, and I did score high enough on the second test, and so I got into Spotlight in seventh grade.
Yeah.
But the way it worked back then, you couldn't get tested unless it was recommended by a teacher.
Yeah.
So a teacher had to actually, notice something in you and then recommend it.
Well, we've come a long way, and we still value teacher recommendations, but a lot of times the things that teachers look for are not the things that are going to score well on a high-Q test.
Right.
They're just not. The teachers tend to look at teacher pleasers and those that are well organized. Those are the kids that make good grades are the kids who are well organized. And school is designed so that the average kid can be successful. If he gets organized and he's sort of polite and he turns in his homework, he's going to be successful. But a lot of the gifted kids lose their homework before they've got to school, if they bother to do their homework. But,
I didn't.
It's just a different group. It's a different way of thinking, and a different status of what is important. Sometimes it's very important to always be respectful to those people who are your authorities and deserve to be your authority. But that's something where I was kind of saying, isn't it intuitive to push stuff? Sometimes for gifted kids, that's not intuitive, that they need to be polite to those people who deserve their respect.
Right.
Right.
They have to be taught that.
So black has recovered the queen here, which is nice.
Yeah.
White's still up a pawn, but anything could happen from here. In games between kids, even relatively talented kids, you have no idea what's going to happen.
In games between adults, even relatively talented adults.
Well, yeah. Well, there's certainly that, right? So in games are hard, right? And
they're very hard.
I'm not one to talk. For my rating, my in games are terrible.
Nail-biting thing.
Here's the thing about in games. In games are, in my opinion, one of the hardest things in chess, because you can mess up an in game in just the slightest bit. They require the most thought and the most ability to see ahead. And the problem is that they come at the end, where you have the least amount of time on your clock. And so here you are in a position where you're trying to think as quickly as possible in a position in which you should not be trying to think as quickly as possible. And so you're kind of in this catch-22. You can't win for losing sometimes in games.
I didn't know that, Craig. See, I have not played enough challenging people to realize that stress on the end game. I always think
it is extremely stressful.
And I kind of tend to like to come from behind, but when you're playing the fifth grader, it's not hard to do, But I don't. I kind of think the mid game is the more challenging time.
Part of that comes down to your time management strategy, like. The more obvious example, right? So Craig uses a lot of time in the middle game and tends to get to in-game positions that are good, but with a low amount of time, right? I hate getting an in-game with low time, so I tend to play faster than I probably should in the middle game. And so I get to an ending where I have plenty of time on my clock, but I've made some errors that I probably wouldn't have made if I'd slowed down. So now I have the time, but now I'm fighting an in-game where I am behind. And so it's complicated, what part of the game you dedicate your time to has a big effect on how the game works out. But the way that I tend to express it a lot of the time with kids is that in the opening, if you make the third best move in the opening, it's probably still fine, right? Like it's not. There are so many options, and there might be a best move, but there's not only one good move. So, and in the opening, you're never expected to calculate 5 or 6 moves deep. It's not necessary. There's too many options available. In the end game, there is very often one move that is good, and everything else is wrong. And you have to calculate, like in a king and pawn ending, you might have to calculate 15 moves deep to figure out who queens the pawn first. Now, is it difficult to calculate 15 moves deep? Not too much. I mean, all of the king and all the pawns only go so fast, but it is required.
And there's few pieces.
I can do that.
Right.
There's few pieces.
I could probably figure that out if I thought for a second.
But it's like walking a tightrope. If you walk a tightrope successfully, there is no difference between a tightrope 3 feet off the ground and 50 feet off the ground. The only difference is the consequences if you fall. And the end game is very often like that. Is it difficult to calculate the correct move? Not necessarily. But if you don't, the game goes from won to lost instantly. Very often, right? There might be like you have a move that wins, and if you don't find that move, your opponent has a move that wins. And if they don't find that move, you have a move that wins, and then so you look at the score chart, and it's just a roller coaster up and down. Right? The engine keeps saying, both players should have won on their move. In games are very precise, and in a way that openings and middle games are usually not. Black could have just won the bishop, right? You don't need the defender because the bishop is pinned, so g5 immediately would have just won the piece. White should get the king out of the way, right? Get out of the pin. Don't leave your... Well, g5 is coming next, and now Black's going to pick up the bishop, and all the pawns are on white squares. Ideally, Black could get the bishop over behind the pawns somehow. Black needs to activate the king. This is one of the other things in the opening. You don't activate the king because if you lose your king, you lose the game. But that does not mean that the king is a weak piece. If the king had a point value, it would be like 4 or so. He's actually stronger than the bishops and knights, but he just takes a while to get where he needs to be. So you need to figure out, like, as soon as it is safe for the king to come out, he needs to start coming out right then. If you are one move too late, it can be a real big problem.
Now tell me if I'm right. I've told children that towards the end of the game, the king is safest in the middle of the board with none of his own pieces around him, because your own pieces block your escape routes.
Yes, but it's not about whether he's safest in the center. He's strongest in the center, right? The king is not. You're not trying to keep the king safe in an even endgame. We're trying to use the king as an attacking piece to control squares. Yeah, he can fight, and he can't fight against the queen, but the queens are gone, right? So it's a different story now.
Well, I've seen a lot of kids get trapped, let their king get trapped back there behind 3 pawns after they castled.
Right.
That was pretty common amongst my students when I was still coaching. And they blocked their own escape route.
Back rank mates are a pretty common result in these games. I like that White has taken a lot of time. I mean, this might be the lowest amount of time on a clock I've seen in any game in this whole tournament. I'm not sure it's going to be enough, but
I think that White has missed a tremendous opportunity to move that king out of the way and block what's getting ready to happen. They've kind of missed that opportunity.
It's still there.
Well, if they don't see it,
he can still get over here, but it's a bit late. Black's up a rook, so just go here and eat the pawns. Honestly, at this point, I'd just take the bishop. Right? It's easier.
It's easier.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that a lot of people don't realize is, you're having a computer analyze your game afterward, and it's like, oh, you blundered. And it's like, well, not really. I was already, at +6, and I made some moves to simplify, and my end result, I'm at +3 with some pawns, but I can easily win. I could do this blindfolded with 1 minute on my clock. It's so easy to win. I'm not going to make a mistake versus having slightly better position, but there being a lot more complications and a lot of chances to lose.
Yes.
Or to make a mistake.
Definitely. Although the trap there is to accidentally simplify into a position that is drawn. A couple of years ago, Craig, I don't know if you saw the game, but a couple of years ago I was playing against Graham at the City Championships in 2017 or something, and I had a totally winning position. And I simplified into an endgame where it was rook and 2 pawns versus rook. But my rook was stuck in front of my pawn, and the other pawn was on the h file way on the other side, and that's a theoretical draw. And about 10 moves after I simplified down, I realized I actually can't win. And he knew. And so all I had to do was keep squeezing. I could have won if I had just not simplified. But I thought, I'll just simplify, and I'm up 2 pawns, and then...
Yeah, you have to be absolutely positive of the victory before you start liquidating.
Right, but if you're up an entire piece, it's a different matter,
that's
right?
Completely different.
I would just sack for the bishop, and that's game over, basically.
Especially with the 2 pawns on b4 and d4, they're completely making the C and A pawns immobile.
Right. Actually, I would not have played d4 here. I would have sacked, because then the king has a way in. If you sack here, now the king actually can't get in over here. It's still an easy win, but it's not as easy as
Yeah,
just
but
walking.
with pawns on the H file, you're fine because
Right.
the other king is going to have to try and stop those.
Especially because you control the queen and square.
Yeah.
All right. If this was a dark square bishop, it would be still an easy win, but not completely trivial. But here it is. Just sack and bring the king up, and then check, and then bishop here, and that's it. How many other games are still going? It's just this one and one other. So yeah, this one done here. High odds of checkmate. Cool. I was gonna say high odds of stalemate because the king was trapped and black had no other moves.
That's
So,
actually a really cool checkmate with the two knights taking away the light squares like that.
yeah, that's pretty cool. The
That's
queen, of
neat.
course, too, protecting this.
Yeah,
but,
yeah. But it's still really neat.
Yeah, this is really.
I don't know
nice.
if I've ever seen one like that before.
No. My favorite mate that I've played was a game against Sydney in a knight and pawn ending where I walked the king all the way around the back and her king was here and I played like knight g7 mate because all the pawns were blocking the king. And, she had decided it was a draw and she offered a draw and I'm looking at the position and I'm like, there's only one way for me to possibly win. There's one,
One
Hail
cheapo shot.
Mary
Right.
checkmate, and she didn't see it until it was too late, and then it was forced on the last move. I felt kind of bad about it, but if I have any way to possibly win against a player 500 points below me, I'm going to go for it. You have to prove it that it's drawn. Another really nice idea: undermining the pawn on g3.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, this goes to show, even if you just drop your queen, if you have a better understanding of fundamentals, you can drag your way back. But if I dropped a queen to Craig, I would resign immediately. I mean, that's a different story.
So it's just, to me, I would, it's definitely encourage my kids to keep playing and to try to fight their way back. But at a certain level, they just all know the future's coming and they resign. I haven't ever coached anybody to that level.
Yes.
Wow, there you go, en passant.
Yeah, that's.
So this fourth grader is a force to be reckoned with. Who knows more than most fourth graders?
Yeah, that's.
See, you gave him an opportunity to play, Craig.
Toby W. Wow.
Yeah, at this point, take the pawn and then take the bishop because the pawn can't be stopped if you take the rook back.
Yeah. Well, really, at this point, just you can promote.
Yeah, it's beyond mattering at this point.
So I'm curious if the player playing white knows about en passant. I'm assuming that they didn't because they pushed the pawn, and now I'm wondering if they thought a glitch just happened.
Yeah, the video on Chess Kid,
hard.
the video on Chess Kid where they teach en passant and stuff. They say, like, if your opponent doesn't know the rule, they may think that you are cheating or finding some kind of trick, but no, it's if you go two squares they can capture, but they have to do it right then. They can't do it next move. That's a tricky.
I'm just assuming this long pause by white, I wonder if it's any indication that they're asking for an explanation as to what the heck just happened.
And they may not be getting an explanation as to
That's
what
true.
just happened, so. That's in order to be like a chess coach, you have to know the rules, but there are more rules than just how the pieces move. I mean,
Yeah.
The three schools that are in it, these coaches probably know en passant.
I've met some really strong players that don't. I had a game against a 1300 rated player who did not know what en passant was. I was really
We have
surprised.
some strong teams that are not in this tournament, but these teachers all play. Put it that way.
Well, this is the last game, and the winner wins the event, but that's decided. Let's see if he does it again, just to prove the point. I would. No, he doesn't need to. Yeah. Toby's dad is actually in the Twitch chat.
Oh,
I don't know if I relayed the message, but earlier, sometime in the last round, he said, "Good morning, everyone. I used to play in that same time frame as Morgan and Matt. My son is in this tournament, and I've loved hearing you all reminisce about our old chess days."
Oh, good.
And then he
I'm
was
glad.
asking me about resources for practice and stuff.
We
after
could
that.
send him a link and let him call in. I just sent a teacher's a question saying who teaches Toby W, but they haven't replied yet.
I assume his father teaches him.
Well, his father may, yes. So his father is this child is one of Mike Stewart's grandchildren via chess.
Oh
Grandchildren.
wow.
Yeah.
Mike has many. Mike, do you know Louis Smith, the pharmacist, Craig?
I've met him once. Yes.
Louis and Bobby Chamberlain, Judge Chamberlain, were a few years behind Mike Stewart, and Mike kind of takes credit for them teaching them.
So we have a clear first, a clear second, and then a very large way tie for third.
Ooh,
I'm actually really confused as to what happened because the player that got second
that many trophies. They could get medals.
in the first game that they played, they just gave away all their pieces and walked into mate, and then won the rest of the games. So,
Interesting.
yeah, that's
Well, we will
a bad game,
we
I
will
guess.
give a trophy to first and second place and medals to all the third place tires. Craig,
That'll work.
yeah.
that'll work if we can
So
afford
congratulations, Toby.
that. Yes.
Yeah. That's the best
Yes,
way to
Toby.
do it. At nationals, they give trophies to the top 25 and everyone that tied for 25th. And one year there was like a 12-way tie for 25th place because
Yes.
they all had 5 points or something. So there are a lot of people who get the little tied trophies after the fact, or sometimes there are none. It just depends on where the cutoff point is.
Well, this year our trophies have been funded by that memorial fund, and so and that recent infusion from C-Spire is what's been giving us some of those nice trophies. I don't know if you got to see the team trophy, Craig, at the middle school level.
No, I haven't seen the
really
team one
cool
yet.
looking. We got some cool looking team trophies. We did. We were very pleased. They look very much like the individuals. I think
Okay.
Did you get one with the obelisk? The
Yes,
obelisk?
yes, Madison
Yeah,
did.
we got the team trophies, just a little bit bigger version.
I gotcha. Yeah, it was really neat. Heavy one
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, thank you. But they were very cool trophies. Every once in a while, the hardware is nice to take home.
Yep.
So, gentlemen, thank you. And Mr. Toby W's daddy, I look forward to speaking with you. I'd love to hear your story too. But thank you so much for making this happen. Jonathan and Craig,
Our pleasure.
I really appreciate it. It would just broken my heart to have a year that we missed this tournament. So
Mine too.
thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yep.
I'm happy to
Thank
take
you.
part.
Congratulations to the winners. Bye-bye.
Atticus, I see you're back in the Zoom call. You mind posting your Elite Chess username in the chat? I can see.
Yeah, you want to play some chess?
Yeah, let's do that.
Oh, y'all have fun, gentlemen.
All right.
Mama Nelson, Mama Bear's gone. So,
Hi.
All right.
Are you streaming? Are you gonna stream?
I mean, I can leave the stream running as it is, or I can turn it off if you want. It's up to you. Is that?
No, you gotta show off you whooping me.
It's not going to be that ugly. I mean, I'm only 200 points higher. If we play, based on the rating gap, if we play 10 games, you should win 2 or 3 of them. You like 5-3?
Yeah, that works fine. Put this over here too. Get situated. I got my tea. We're ready.
I see you have a demo board behind you. Oh, that King's Gambit setup.
Yeah, nice. You got it.
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit about that.
you play the King's Indian most of the time?
Always. I play the same openings in every game. I mean, I know other lines and I'll play them occasionally for fun, but I'm one of those guys that if you have me in a tournament, you know what I'm going to play. People have shown up to the board with the first 12 moves already written down. I mean, the usual line is instead of h3, it's like rook e1, and then in this position you could play bishop f1 and add the rook as a defender.
Yeah, that makes more sense. I mean, I should have guessed the reasoning for knight a3, knight a6.
Yeah, it's going to c5. I mean,
Yeah.
that's pretty ambitious.
Yeah, for some reason, I thought something else was about to happen. Just a mere miscalculation.
I see.
But honestly, it's not that bad, I guess. the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just in general, when I'm playing white against the King's Indian, I do find that I bet I score one of the lowest against that opening.
There are a couple of lines that are really sharp and difficult. I mean, the line you played is okay, but it leads to complicated stuff. I usually play knight f3 on the first move, but
I'm not used to a pawn on e4 after playing d4, and so I don't know. I think that's what I blame it as, but that's probably not right.
I've never been convinced by this queen d8 line.
I'm a fan of John Bartholomew. Do you know him?
I do, but
I like him a lot.
have you seen the game in Fischer's 60 Memorable Games where his opponent plays queen d8 and he just smashes them? I mean, he considered this line to be completely refuted, but of course it's been 50 years, right? So
it's got a bad reputation. Yeah, that's certainly the case.
When I play the Scandinavian, I play after e takes d5. I play knight f6. I like that line a lot more. I think black's position is solid.
Yeah, like the Scandinavian, the positions are all so similar.
Yeah, it does lead to fundamentally sound stuff. To get the bishop outside, e6, c6. Can be a tough nut to crack, for sure. Ah, man, yeah, I was panicking about time at the end there too. I'm not really sure. You should
pretty
be
sure.
able to win the D pawn, and then
Yeah, I guess I might have won that. I feel like I'm about to collapse under pressure though. I don't know that I was about to hold this. I almost played King G8, which just is terrible. And so then I was like, well, then I ran out of time.
yeah, well, that's how Blitz goes. It looks like it won't let me send a rematch. Do you?
I hopped out and went to the analysis board, but
I see. Yeah. I think I was better at the opening, but it's. Oh, I had a much better move. Yeah, Bishop D6 is just bad. I should have just played D5 and opened the center right then, because you're not consolidated quite right. But yeah, that was kind of back and forth, but it never really deviated that much from the center.
yeah, I thought after this move, I thought after Bishop D6 that you would play Bishop takes or knight e5 in some order. So Bishop takes a knight e5 or just knight e5 immediately.
After Bishop E7, if I play knight E5 right then, you can just take the bishop.
After Bishop D6. So I play Bishop back after you play A3, and then you pin my knight.
Which move? Do you know how to use the study functionality?
Yeah. Actually, no. Like as that option, I've never clicked on that. What does that do?
Yeah. So if you create a study,
I've used that. Yeah, sorry.
and then invite only, add members, set as collaborator, right? And then so here, if you come in and we make moves, it'll sync it up. So if you play through a position, it'll keep the same position on both boards.
Yeah, I'll move 12 right here.
Ah, yeah. Yeah, definitely 95 should have been played, but I wanted to create some kind of complications, but it wasn't enough. But yeah, 95 definitely is best. And then I can go crazy with stuff like G4 at some point in the near future, but probably not. I was surprised that you didn't take the pawn on C4 here.
Let me think. So, yeah, I didn't see it was hanging.
I didn't either. I was not focused on it. I saw it right after I took with the queen. Should have taken with the rook instead.
Yeah, I mean, I got to a weird position. I don't know. Scandinavians are also similar that nothing's really out of left field, but I don't know. Your knight on F3 got, that's the knight that's kind of staying in the game right here, which I normally trade off light squared bishop for it.
Right. Yeah, at the very end, you're actually better because I can't hold on to this for too long. This whole idea is just worse. You just take all the dark squares on the queen. I can't do anything with this. And this pawn is eventually just going to fall. I can hold it, but the knight comes to d4 and blocks it off, and I'm just going to lose the pawn. And then I have to try to hold the endgame. I was looking at all kinds of like rook takes and the knight takes, kicking the queen and coming in here, but none of that is good enough. It's just all potential. Let's play another, and we've got a. I'll take white. Let's play the King's Gambit. Right? E4, E5.
And I'm accepting.
Sure.
You have to. I'll do the line we talked about, I guess. Seems to make the most sense. Yeah, I don't face this. Snuffle. Ugh. Hmm. Yeah, I'll take that.
Sure.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, your queen was just saying. But I'll push this back, right? I should have just played Rook E7, but it's whatever. It's fine.
Nice.
Yeah, the dark. You had to play A5, right? And then the rook can control A6, and then that might be enough to hold it. But with the time,
I saw I don't know, time pressure, moving too fast. Of course, I knew you had that, but
I don't know. It's not that clear. I mean, if the attack falls apart, structurally, my position really wasn't that great, and that's sort of that's Black's compensation on all these lines. Is that the closer we get to the end game, the better things tend to look for Black. But I mean, once I get the whole queen side, maybe I win the end game too. But
yeah, I should have traded queens.
yeah, queen trade is good. But if you had traded queens, that would open up the A file. And I can use that with the rooks and try to push in that way. But yeah, trading queens definitely makes things easier for you to survive.
I wanted to do that, and then yeah, like that was my initial plan. I offered up a couple queen trades, and then I abandoned that plan because I was like, I'm getting mated. I'm gonna try and mate him, and then you took all my pieces, and I couldn't mate you anymore.
Yeah, well, I'm sure if the computer takes a look at this game, it's going to think we're both crazy. I mean, any game like this, as soon as the engine takes a look, it's like, this is horrible, you know, because it finds these precise little tricks in the middle of the position. In fact, if I just press this little button, let's see how many roller coaster-y things we get going on here. Well, okay, so it never actually threw away my advantage, but still.
You gotta.
What was this?
There had to be some tactics. In the middle,
The
for sure.
immediate C5, threatening bishop A6. Here in my Yeah.
Yeah, it is just there's nothing I can do.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
pretty gross.
I don't play the King's Gambit that often. Most white players don't play it.
It's
And
pretty
then Bishop
uncommon.
C4 is also another rare move.
Yeah, that's what I was taught to play as a kid. Because, it's I get a really powerful position, but like my king is like he's not super happy, but I get enough compensation. The really cool idea here is if you try to trade queens, it's actually mate like this. So you can't trade. If I play C5 here, you can't trade queens, and I should have found this, but I wanted to do this, but that's not really good enough. It doesn't get me quite enough, and then Queen G3. Yeah, if you trade queens, it's defendable. I was of course gonna play check and then take, right, and that's kind of cool. You can get out this way. It looks bad, but it actually isn't. If the king gets out in this position, my rook on h1 is not doing anything, right? So it's hard for me to reactivate and deal with this. So yeah, this is actually even. That's interesting. I should have seen c5. That's a common idea, but I just didn't. I thought this led to a win, but this is a bad bishop. I don't know why I wanted to take it. Either way, definitely. Are you a part of the Memphis Chess Club team on HS?
Yes.
You what?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Yeah, I haven't been playing in a lot of the tournaments, but I'll probably start doing it pretty soon. All right, well, I've gotta head out, but we'll play some games at some point in the future.
Yeah, thanks for the games. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, no problem.
You're a strong player.
I'm good enough to know that I'm really not that good, but that actual masters and IMs and GMs beat me like a dog, but that's how it goes. There are levels to this, as they say. So
Yeah, I mean, I've been studying and trying to get better, so I'm trying to get on your level.
yeah, it takes time. How are your in games?
I think that's basically like that's my strong suit. I would say.
My in games are terrible. For my rating, right? So like they're okay, but for a 2000, they're really not that good. But yeah, do you still live in North Mississippi?
I live in Oxford. I'm about to move, but
Where are you going?
I think I'm going to Philadelphia.